What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
6MT. Chapter 176 Aizen, I still like your unruly look. Advertisement. Anyone else? Just when Ichimaru Jin was secretly shocked that Aizen Sosuke had an equal side with others, a bigger crossing passage suddenly appeared. At the same time, a picture that he will never forget in his life also came into his eyes. Aizen Sosuke, who was arrogant, indifferent, and condescending to everything, actually greeted him with a shy smile. That's right, this kind of expression used to be only shown by those who flatter people. A look that Aizen Sosuke never showed even when he disguised himself in Soul Society. Such an Aizen Sosuke surprised Ichimaru Jin and could hardly believe his eyes. Did Captain Aizen cast Kyoka Suigetsu's ability on me? Yes, this must be hallucination. How could Captain Aizen show such a gesture? Although Ichimaru Jin is trying to figure out how to kill Aizen Sosuke every day and night. But it is precisely because he observes and studies Aizen Sosuke all the time that he has an extremely deep understanding of the King of Death. In his opinion, Aizen Sosuke would not be able to show such an ugly posture even if he died. As this the scenery of the Shinigami world, it is indeed different from pirates and Hokage. After walking out of the crossing passage, Luo Hao slowly opened his hands. His perception was overwhelming. The spirit seeds unique to the Shinigami world, and the powerful aura entrenched in the Soul Society, all clearly appeared in his perception. Among the countless auras, there are two that stand out the most. One is as hot as the sun, releasing the breath that the Buddha wants to burn all the matter, life and energy around him. One is as unfathomable as Wang Yang's sea, but also as unpredictable as a thousand-flower mirror, making people never able to fathom its depth. These two breaths seem to be in opposition to each other. A domineering, majestic, a gloomy, mysterious, advertisement. One is on the far side. One is close at hand. Obviously, this gloomy and mysterious atmosphere is the one in front of you. Luo Hao looked up, and a handsome face with a smile came into his eyes immediately. Quote. Looking at Aizen Sosuke's smiling face close at hand, he fell silent. Is this still the Aizen captain he is familiar with? Why did Soul Society show him something so exciting? Xiao Lan, I still like your initial attitude of being rebellious and disregarding everything. Please restore it. After being silent for a few seconds, Luo Haofang said such a sentence. Although, he knew that Aizen Sosuke's apologetic smile was also faking. Aizen Sosuke can't be said to be afraid of him. However, he is still very uncomfortable with the appearance of Aizen Sosuke. No problem. The smile on Aizen Sosuke's face faded away. The aura of flattery dissipated in an instant. At the same time, while reaching out to take off the glasses on his face, he raised his hairspray hand and grabbed the bangs in front of his forehead and stroked them back. Really, hairstyle is so important to a man's image. Just took off the black-rimmed glasses, put a little hairspray on the head, and casually styled, Aizen Sosuke is like a different person. The Shinigami, who combined haughty and secretive, arrogant and powerful, forced the king to return immediately. We met for the first time, you are the king of the Hokage world. Aizen Sosuke raised his head arrogantly, a look of contempt burst out of his sharp eyes. Zhang Chulin was stunned. Advertisement. Acetus was stunned. Whitebeard is silent. Quote. Cheomung's eyes are straight. Quote. Ichimaru Jin stared blankly at Aizen Sosuke in front of him. He wanted to say something, but after the word, I, was squeezed out of his mouth, he found that the rest was speechless. At this moment, he was completely stunned. What on earth is it? This is the first meeting. Hokage-sama is satisfied with how I look. The corners of Aizen Sosuke's mouth raised slightly, with an indifferent arc. Okay, that's it. Luo Hao's eyes lit up. Sure enough, this Aizen Sosuke is much more pleasing to the eye. It's even better without the wonderful smiling faces you see as soon as you come to the world of Shinigami. It seems that you are quite satisfied with my appearance. Ran Sosuke smiled lightly, and then glanced at Ichimaru Jin who was standing aside stupidly with blank eyes. Come on, Master Hokage, let me introduce you to Lu. This is my most capable subordinate, Ichimaru Jin. Hello, Lord Hokage, and everyone. Speaking of which, it's the first time I've seen Captain Aizen treat someone so seriously. Hearing Aizen Sosuke talk about himself, Ichimaru Jin finally recovered. Although, he was extremely curious about who this group of people in front of him was, as if each one was getting bigger and bigger. Available as a qualified Lion Majesty, but also Yakushi Kabuto of the Shinigami world, he quickly gets into shape with that trademark foxy grin. Advertisement. Chapter 177 Ichimaru Jin, right. Be Laozi's son. Advertisement. As this Ichimaru Jin, the moment Zhang Chulin met Ichimaru Jin's eyes, Zhang Chulin felt stared at by Lion Majesty. It made him feel cold all over his body. This guy is not easy. Looking at the Empire, I'm afraid I can't find a strong man who can compare with it. Acetus narrowed his eyes slightly. Although she doesn't know everything about Ichimaru Jin like Zhang Chulin does, but as an imperial general who came out of a sea of corpses and blood, she knew that Ichimaru Jin was not easy to deal with when she first saw him. My mind is very gloomy. Mewtwo seems to be observing Ichimaru Jin with his eyes, but in fact overwhelming spiritual power has gathered on Ichimaru Jin. Since practicing chakra and mastering the beast mode, his spiritual power has become more and more mysterious. When fighting, it turns into Nianzi with extremely destructive power. Normally, use mental power to perceive and detect everything. 570 Even a person's joy, anger, sorrow, joy, or even a person's essence cannot escape his spiritual exploration. It can be described as a panacea to ultimate. The moment he put his mental power on Ichimaru Jin, he realized that he was the same as Aizen Sosuke. They are all old yin coins with secretive minds. Ichimaru Jin, right, be Laozi's son. Just when Luo Hao was about to say hello to Ichimaru Jin, the number one Shinigami undercover in the world, a burly figure suddenly jumped over him and walked all the way in front of Ichimaru Jin. Immediately afterwards, under the sluggish gazes of Luo Hao, Aizen Sosuke and others, Whitebeard put his hand on the shoulder of Ichimaru Jin who was also sluggish, and then brazenly activated the heaven-defying ability of Sun Fruit. As soon as Whitebeard's words came out, the atmosphere suddenly became cold. Luo Hao and the others couldn't bear to look directly and turned around, not knowing what to say. And Ichimaru Jin, who was the person involved, was even more at a loss. Advertisement. What the hell? I think you are only 70 or 80 years old. Want to be my daddy? Are you awake yet? Facing Whitebeard's enthusiastic identification, Ichimaru Jin was a little at a loss, but also a little annoyed. Although Ichimaru Jin's age is not very old for Seraiti, he is definitely much older than Whitebeard, who is in his 70s and 80s. You want to be your own father as soon as you come here, don't you have some compulsion in your heart? In terms of age and strength, you are not qualified to let me Ichimaru Jin call you daddy, right? Blue. Captain Aizen. If it was normal, Ichimaru Jin would have said nothing to Shikai Zanpakuto, and would have been strutting at Whitebeard with Shinso. But Lan's attitude, and the speed Whitebeard showed when he reached out to his shoulder just now, made Ichimaru a little hesitant. In desperation, he could only look at Aizen Sosuke for help. It's okay, follow. This is Whitebeard's habit. He also thinks highly of you, so he sent you an invitation. If you have that intention, then I can match you father and son. The corners of Aizen Sosuke's mouth twitched slightly. Daig, seeing Ichimaru Jin's helpless look, he was also quite happy. After all, he also knows that Ichimaru Jin is by his side every day, with a low-browed look on the surface, but in fact, he secretly wants to kill himself all the time. Although he is broad-minded, doesn't care, and won't give Ichimaru Jin small shoes to wear, but he also doesn't mind watching Ichimaru Jin make a joke. That's that Whitebeard, isn't it? Seeing that there was no hope for help, Ichimaru Jin could only turn his head to meet Whitebeard's burning gaze with difficulty. Child, call daddy. Advertisement. Whitebeard's words left Ichimaru Jin speechless. When did I say I promised to be your son? You don't want to scream like a child. Let me tell you, if you keep yelling, even if you have a good relationship with Captain Aizen, I, Ichimaru Jin, will still draw my sword. Bang. Anyway, what he lacked most on board was his son. But it is very rare to pretend. How is this going? Aizen, your world doesn't seem very peaceful, so he can very intuitively feel the owner of this yellow Reiatsu. My son can collect things like this anytime. If it is typing, how can it be suitable as the venue for our conference? Especially this Wanjie pretend conference, this is the first time that Wanjie chat dress gathers all skirt friends to compete together. Cheomung stared solemnly at the yellow beam of light. Faced with this sudden Reiatsu, Whitebeard also temporarily put aside the matter of accepting his son. Aizen Sosuke smiled lightly. Luo Hao and others turned their heads to look, and suddenly saw a huge beam of light visible to the naked eye rising into the sky. After all, he didn't forget that he had business to do in the Shinigami world this time. He has never practiced Shinigami's power system, but Shinigami's power is mainly spiritual power that is biased towards the soul, which is similar to spiritual power. What a powerful breath. As the strongest man in the world, he naturally couldn't lag behind other skirt friends in pretend. Asides looked at Aizen Sosuke. Just when Ichimaru Jin was thinking about whether to pull out his sword and kill Whitebeard, a maniac, with a weary expression, a terrifying aura suddenly came from afar. Advertisement. Chapter 178 Let's pretend, never ask the other party how many people there are. Advertisement. Soul Society is not in balance right now. You came just in time for the brigade invasion. And, the accident this time seems to be quite difficult. Aizen Sosuke said with an attitude of being an outsider who has nothing to do with him. Don't act like it's nothing to do with you. Obviously, this is all made up by you, okay? Zhang Chulin glanced at Aizen Sosuke. Of course, he only dared to murmur in his heart, not daring to speak out at all. After all, Aizen Sosuke is standing in front of him now, instead of chatting between two worlds in the Wanjie chat skirt. If he dared to beep, Aizen Sosuke would really probably kill him. Travel disaster. There was a hint of interest in Asida's eyes. You can understand that. The Shinigami world consists of several different spaces. The world in which humans live. The Hueco Mundo of virtual life. And the Soul Society where Shinigami lives, which is the land under our feet. Of course, in addition to these, there are some other spaces. However, these spaces are basically inseparable from the world, Soul Society, and Hueco Mundo. So I won't introduce much here. Quote. Aizen Sosuke briefly introduced the venue of this year's pretend conference to Whitebeard and his friends who didn't have any strategies. As for the travel disaster, it is the sinner who entered the Soul Society without the permission of Seraiti, or even invaded Seraiti. Generally speaking, in case of travel accidents, Seraiti will either kill or capture. And this time the accident was a bit tricky, the invasion of Seraiti is still free and easy, and even the captain-level Shinigami were alarmed. Advertisement. You see, the yellow Reiatsu that is visible to the naked eye is one of the captain-level Shinigami in Gotei's 13th Division, Zaraki Kenpachi. As soon as Aizen Sosuke finished speaking, he found that Whitebeard and Asides were already carrying Kong Yunchi, and 10 were holding longswords and throwing them in the direction of Zaraki Kenpachi in a hurry. Hey, don't run away. I haven't finished talking yet. Aizen Sosuke looked at the posture of the two, and he didn't know their plan. It is clear that they want to snatch the first opportunity to pretend after the conference begins. After all, where there is conflict, where there is a fight, it basically means that there is force to pretend. This point, both Whitebeard and Asides are very clear. At the same time, they also know their own shortcomings. It doesn't have the home field advantage like Aizen Sosuke, nor does it hold the Shinigami strategy like Luo Hao and Zhang Chulin, who are familiar with all the plot trends, can accurately grasp every pretend opportunity, and know the famous pretend scenes. Under all kinds of unfavorable starts, in order not to fall behind others, they can only strike first. Seeing a place where there was a fight, I rushed over without saying a word and pretended it. As for how many people there are and how strong the opponent is. I'm sorry, when we pretend to be a member of Wanjie chat dress, we never ask how many people there are, let alone how strong they are. They are so reckless. I left without finishing my sentence. Quote. Aizen Sosuke shook his head and sighed. People who didn't know thought he was really worried about the safety of Asides and the others. Billion, is there something wrong? A trace of vigilance rose in Cheomung's heart. He always felt that Whitebeard and Asides were going to have big problems 9 times out of 10. Grandpa, didn't you hear what Captain Aizen said just now? Trespassing into the Soul Society without the permission of the Seraiti is a travel disaster. 0 for flowers. Advertisement. Whenever the Shinigami of the Gotei 13th Division encounters them, they will attack them. But the people over there are travelers, don't we? Moreover, we are not the same as the limited travel disaster. There are people behind them, and most Shinigami captains turn a blind eye to them, even if they encounter them, they will release water. But we are different, unknown origin, no one behind it. In this sensitive period, once you encounter it, you will be beaten to death. Zhang Chulin originally didn't want to reveal the Shinigami strategy. After all, his strength is at the bottom of all skirt friends. If you want to stand out in this Wanjie pretend conference, you need to rely on the strategy. But Cheomung seemed to know what he was thinking. When asking him, more than a dozen Super Dream Balls came out of his right hand. Seeing these Super Dream Balls, Zhang Chulin forgot to see himself surrounded by more than a dozen super mythical beasts and beasts. Chu Lan is right, each of you is now equivalent to a travel disaster. And for some unknown reason, I am now seen as dead by Shinigami and Seraiti. So I can't come forward to help you solve this problem. This is why I have repeatedly emphasized to you before the start of the conference, pretend needs to be cautious, and the conference is risky. Every one of us needs to think clearly before pretending to act. Otherwise, it would be a trivial matter if you fail to pretend and get slapped in the face, but it would be a major event if you accidentally die on the way to pretend. Aizen Sosuke shook his head. Everyone is an adult now. Everyone should be aware of the risks of pretending. If you really lost your life because of pretending in the conference, you can only blame them for their lack of strength. Luo Hao said the door lightly. Advertisement. Chapter 179 First Blood. Not so easy to get. Advertisement. Master Hokage, why don't you put on a show? Cheomung saw Asides and Whitebeard rushing to Zaraki Kenpachi's place, obviously planning to get off to a good start, so he couldn't help asking Luo Hao. Not urgent. Although the first blood of this pretend conference is good, it is not so easy to get. Luo Hao said indifferently. Among the participants of this conference, he is the one with the most confidence and the strongest capital. Not to mention the authority of the administrator. In terms of strength, he is the best in the world. In terms of strategy, he is as familiar with every pretend opportunity as Zhang Chulin. It is also true, he is very clear that Zaraki Kenpachi, 307, is a big pit. A Shinigami captain who, like Uchiha, was released into the sea to fight the Pacific War. With a sword in both hands, Shinigami who can kill the 5th Espada in seconds, can Kurosaki Ichigo who didn't learn from Bankai beat him. It's just a joke. Zaraki Kenpachi, is that a fight? Not at all. He is simply having fun and playing games, and he is the kind who even puts himself in the sea when he is having fun and playing games. But even if he is releasing the sea, Kurosaki Ichigo needs to hang up, and with the help of Zagetsu's strength, he can barely survive. If it were someone else, Zaraki Kenpachi would have been killed by Zaraki Kenpachi long ago. Now Whitebeard and Asides, who are many times stronger than the current Kurosaki Ichigo, ran in front of Zaraki Kenpachi, and he could imagine with his toes how many times Zaraki Kenpachi's combat power would be soaring. What's more, there is the variable of Aizen Sosuke. Gentlemen, you also know the rules of the meeting. Unlimited, all free pretend. Advertisement. It's all up to the individual. Now the conference has also started, whether you are free to move around or form a team is up to you. Aizen Sosuke said to Zhang Chulin and Cheomung. I follow Master Hokage. Cheomung said without hesitation. As a licking dog, of course, you must always follow in the footsteps of your boss. In particular, he also knows that his boss is the strongest, and he is also familiar with the plot. I'll follow Dad. Zhang Chulin chased in Whitebeard's direction without thinking. In his opinion, Aizen Sosuke is extremely dangerous, and being with him is courting death. As for Luo Hao, that is the scariest one. Maybe you won't die if you follow him, but if you want to get a pretend chance in his hands, there is no way. As for free activities, although he could take over most of the pretend opportunities, but thinking of his insignificant strength, he gave up directly. After much deliberation, it is safest to follow Whitebeard. With Whitebeard's strength, coupled with his strategy, the two of them, father and son, can completely occupy more than 40% of the pretend opportunities in this conference. At that time, the big deal is that the father and son will have a chance to dance half and half. Master Hokage, what about you? For Zhang Chulin and Cheomeng's actions, Aizen Sosuke was not surprised at all. Of course, to appreciate Whitebeard they pretend. After all, whether it is Zaraki Kenpachi versus Whitebeard, or Zaraki Kenpachi versus Acedes, such a scene is rare. Quote. A smile flashed across Luo Hao's eyes. For some reason, he always felt that one of Whitebeard or Acedes would overturn. Not to mention that Soul Society's waters are very deep. Advertisement. Just talking about Aizen Sosuke in front of him, as the organizer, he will never let Acedes and Whitebeard get the side of the conference so easily. After all, with Aizen Sosuke's wise plan, and he already knew that he and Zhang Chulin knew the direction of Shinigami's plot, how could he make arrangements early? It is estimated that those pretend scenes in the original plot that even Zhang Chulin, a weak chicken, can pretend to be, in all likelihood, have been transformed into big pits by Aizen Sosuke. 0. After all, every battle Kurosaki Ichigo and the others fought in the invasion of the Soul Society, and everything they went through was Aizen Sosuke behind the scenes. Boss Luo, you don't want to sabotage Dad's pretend, do you? However, there is a rule in the conference that violent forms are not allowed to destroy other people's pretend. You can't rely on your status as an administrator to snatch the chance of a skirt friend pretending. When Zhang Chulin heard that Luo Hao was going to Whitebeard's place, Zhang Chulin immediately became vigilant. Luo Hao knows all the plot trends as well as he does. If the other party really trampled on the rules of the conference unscrupulously, who could pretend to be him? How could be? The fun part of the game is because of the rules. If you have to trample on the rules to play a game, is there any need to play the game? Luo Hao's voice remained in place, but the person had disappeared. So fast. 0.7 Ichimaru Jin, who has been guessing Luo Hao's strength, saw this scene, and his pupils suddenly tightened to ultimate. Can't see at all. The speed is so fast that he can't even capture a trace of his trajectory under normal conditions. Master Hokage, wait for Chao. When Cheomeng saw that Luo Hao had left, he quickly used teleportation to catch up. Not good. Dad may be in danger. Zhang Chulin, who originally wanted to chase after her, suddenly glanced at Aizen Sosuke, who was smiling at the corner of her mouth, and her heart skipped a beat. In a trance, he seemed to understand something. Advertisement. Chapter 180 Give me face and give me Zaraki Kenpachi. Advertisement. Aizen Sosuke is the organizer of the conference. Didn't he hold this meeting just because he was afraid that Luo Hao would continue to force him to pretend? A king who cares so much about pretending, for the sake of pretending, he will not hesitate to hold the 10,000 Worlds Pretend Conference, and invite all their skirt friends to the Shinigami world. How can he just sit back and watch others pretend in his territory and remain indifferent? Zaraki Kenpachi is a big hole. At this time, Zhang Chulin, who was a little late, did not dare to stop for a moment, and directly activated Yang Wulei, chasing Whitebeard with full firepower. It's just that Whitebeard is no longer the injured, sick and disabled old man who was extremely difficult to beat Akainu in the past. Having learned chakra, perfectly fused Hashirama cells, and mastered wood style far superior to Konoha construction team, coupled with the fact that he has recently devoted himself to reading and literacy, and delved into various ninjutsu, his strength has long been different from what it used to be. Compared with holding the shock fruit, it is stronger than the period when its strength was at its peak. Under the education of 30 teachers hired by Mar with high salaries, Whitebeard, who has successfully learned the instantaneous technique by virtue of the newly learned hundreds of new fonts, has rushed to the battlefield where Zaraki Kenpachi and Kurosaki Ichigo are located in a short while. It's so boring. Fortunately, Laozi even ran to find you. Unexpectedly, I found a piece of garbage. Quote. Zaraki Kenpachi looked at Kurosaki Ichigo, who had slashed several times on his body, but didn't even cut his skin, and was immediately disappointed. Before, he thought there was something wrong with this trip, so he went all the way to find Kurosaki Ichigo. I didn't expect that after taking so many wrong paths, the travel disaster I finally found turned out to be rubbish. It doesn't matter if he can't cut his skin, but he was defeated in the fighting game. I don't even have the courage to lift a knife. Hateful. What do I do? Not even Zagetsu can cut through his skin. Is this the captain? Can I save Rukia? Kurosaki Ichigo heard that Zaraki Kenpachi despised him so much, although his eyes were full of anger, but when he thought that he had hacked Zaraki Kenpachi several times, but couldn't even scratch the skin, the anger in his mind was occupied by fear again. Waste. Zaraki Kenpachi saw that Kurosaki Ichigo still looked timid, pouted his lips a little annoyed, and then leaned against the wall disappointed. Advertisement. Don't pay attention to me at all. Kurosaki Ichigo glared at Zaraki Kenpachi with gritted teeth, but dared not make any movement. Is this Shinigami on the same level as Aizen? It's quite horizontal. On a tall building not far away, Whitebeard looked down at Zaraki Kenpachi. A man born to fight, to fight. Interesting. Whitebeard, he is mine. Acedes stared at Zaraki Kenpachi, bloodthirst appeared in his beautiful eyes. She sees herself in Zaraki Kenpachi. Everyone rushed here together, why did Laozi let you? Whitebeard sneered. Do me a favor and give me Zaraki Kenpachi. Acetus stared at Whitebeard. Whitebeard was speechless. These words are too familiar. Why is everyone learning to have red hair? It's that damn redhead who came up with such classic pretend lines. It was a bit tricky for him, the strongest man in the world, to face this fruit of face. Laozi is a man who has rejected the fruit of face ability, a red-haired man. Do you think fruit of face is useful to Laozi? Whitebeard glanced at Acetus. He is Whitebeard after all. Changed to Marine 3 Admiral, it is estimated that the ability to win the fruit of face will be lost. But who is he? Advertisement. A man who dares to refuse even red-haired Shanks, the strongest owner of fruit of face. How could Acetus learn the face-saving fruit he learned from the red-haired Shanks to work on him? Then use this to decide who belongs to this pretend. Acetus put his right hand on the hilt of his sword after seeing that the fruit of face was invalid. Laozi has exactly that intention. Whitebeard narrowed his eyes, and tightened the 5 fingers holding Kong Yunchi suddenly. The two looked at each other, as if they had reached a tacit understanding. This time I didn't run in vain. In midair, the two faced each other with fists and palms. 830 she actually lost. Zaraki Kenpachi, who had been leaning against the wall, dozed off, and waited for Kurosaki Ichigo to cheer up before fighting himself, suddenly raised his eyelids. He belongs to Laozi. Unexpectedly, the garbage Kurosaki Ichigo could catch the great white shark Whitebeard. Even if the kid doesn't cheer up in the end, it doesn't matter. Just a glance, the moment Zaraki Kenpachi saw Whitebeard, he felt the blood in his body boil immediately. Acedes looked at his fist with a cold expression on his face. Between lightning and flint, their right hands holding knives and swords blatantly struck out. This guy is much more interesting. This Whitebeard hunk is enough. Under his gaze, Whitebeard's much larger figure suddenly landed beside Kurosaki Ichigo. At first he thought he picked up a piece of trash. Originally, Laozi thought that this orange head was already the best quality in this batch, but unexpectedly there was an even better one. Damn it! Whitebeard raised his big hand, and jumped down happily. Advertisement. Chapter 181 Ichigo. Daddy, please accept me as your son. Advertisement. Who are you? A person suddenly appeared beside him, and immediately woke up Kurosaki Ichigo, who was immersed in the panic, anxiety brought by Zaraki Kenpachi. Son, are you confused? Whitebeard put his hand on Kurosaki Ichigo's shoulder and asked without answering. I'm confused. Kurosaki Ichigo originally wanted to scold a lunatic, but when he touched Whitebeard's eyes that seemed to hold even the sea, his words changed when he reached his mouth. There's no way. Whitebeard's hand on his shoulder almost crushed his bones. It's okay to be confused. Laozi is dedicated to saving those lost children. Come on, call dad. Whether it's your little girlfriend Rukia, or Zaraki Kenpachi in front of you, Laozi will help you deal with him immediately. Whitebeard is coaxing Kurosaki Ichigo. Apparently, after getting sucked down by Ichimaru Jin, he learned to be better. Got it, the kids in the Shinigami world are not as easy to fool as the kids in the pirate world, so easy to get. In order to flourish in the world of Shinigami and accept a son, Whitebeard resolutely threw aside the way of accepting sons by relying on personality charm in the past, and directly used threats and lures. What do you want me to call you? When Kurosaki Ichigo heard this, his eyes widened. As far as the protagonists of the 3 major migrant workers are concerned, he is definitely the most thorny and dickish one. A Zangetsu, cut directly to the finale. How could ADK like him recognize a man he had never met as his father? Boom. Click. In Laozi's eyes, there are usually only 2 kinds of people. One is a son, the other is an enemy. Which do you want to do? Whitebeard's eyes turned cold, and with a backhand punch, he stomped down a building next to him that was 100 meters high. Father, please adopt me as your son. Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Whitebeard admiringly. Not to mention how filial you are. Good boy. Advertisement. Come on, stand aside. Quietly watching daddy in costume, watching daddy dance. Whitebeard, who was still murderous just now, immediately burst into a sunny and warm smile. The smile in this scene went straight to the deepest part of Kurosaki Ichigo's heart, sweeping away his fear and confusion. Okay, daddy, please. Kurosaki Ichigo will never become his coward. He's just a pragmatic guy. He is an honest boy. He's just a main character with a big picture. Everything is focused on defeating Zaraki Kenpachi. Everything is focused on saving Rukia who is about to be executed. Isn't that just multiple dads? Kurosaki Ishin was so happy when he found out. After all, this is an extra companion. Have you changed someone? Now that you have changed, come and fight Laozi. At this time, the voice of Zaraki Kenpachi suddenly came. It was you who bullied Laozi's child just now. Whitebeard walked up to Zaraki Kenpachi with his head held high. Bully. If you want to understand that this is bullying, then it is not impossible. Zaraki Kenpachi slowly raised his Zanpakuto. It seems that you are quite confident in your own strength. Whitebeard looks down at Zaraki Kenpachi, who is barely taller than his waist. Come on, hit me. His words made Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes light up. Wasn't that how I was tricked by Zhang Chuangbashi just now? Although Zaraki Kenpachi's original intention is not the case. Advertisement. But in Kurosaki Ichigo's view, he was humiliated. What did you say? Zaraki Kenpachi narrowed his eyes. Allowing others to cut and beat oneself has always been exclusive to oneself. He registered the copyright with Soul Society. But the man in front of him dared to say such a thing to himself. Did not hear clearly. I let you hit me. Come, cut here. Whitebeard pointed to his left breast, and said with a look of disdain. Clang. What is a person who doesn't talk too much? Go back and learn swordsmanship for a few more years, okay, and then learn how to kill people. Bell boy. While Kurosaki Ichigo stared straight at the eyes, he couldn't help but screamed excitedly. Unscathed, Zaraki Kenpachi's knife can't even scratch the skin of Whitebeard's chest. Since Whitebeard repeatedly made such requests, he naturally drew his sword to fulfill the other party without hesitation. As soon as the knife was implemented, a deep pit with a length of 100 meters burst out of the ground under the two people's feet. Zaraki Kenpachi is just that. Whitebeard has this request, and he will do his best to fulfill the other party. Father, mighty, originally thought Zaraki Kenpachi was a monster. The result is the same as when Kurosaki Ichigo cut Zaraki Kenpachi just now. The knife is good, but the level of the knife user is not good. After seeing what Whitebeard is capable of, he immediately yelled, Daddy. Boom. The power of this knife alone shows that Zaraki Kenpachi is also a pragmatic person. Whitebeard planted his feet firmly in place and took Zaraki Kenpachi's slash with his left chest. A cold light flashed in the air, and the Zanpakuto in Zaraki Kenpachi's hand had already struck Whitebeard's left chest with terrifying force under Kurosaki Ichigo's nervous gaze. Unexpectedly, a burly man who suddenly appeared and wanted to recognize himself as his son was even more of a monster among monsters. Advertisement. Chapter 182 Bell Boy, you are not qualified to dance. Advertisement. Can't it be cut? Zaraki Kenpachi saw his Zanpakuto cut on Whitebeard's chest without even scratching the skin, his pupils constricted suddenly. As if he couldn't believe it, he couldn't help mentioning Zanpakuto and looked at it seriously. It seemed to be checking to see if something was wrong with his knife. After all, it was the first time he met someone who could not be cut by him. Gu la la la. Is it hard to take it? Bell kid. Whitebeard grinned, and once again used his other ability besides Sun Fruit. Give someone a nickname. Bell boy. Zaraki Kenpachi, who tied bells in every tuft of hair, earned his reputation straight away. It's really hard to accept. But this is more interesting. It was so much fun. This is the first time this uncle has encountered such a thing. Zaraki Kenpachi took a look at Zanpakuto, and 030 finally identified a problem. There is no problem with Zanpakuto, it is still the familiar Zanpakuto. The reason why he couldn't cut people down was because of him personally. Since it's your own problem, it's easy to handle. A fight between Shinigami is actually a fight between Reiatsu. Regardless of other abilities, the side with stronger Reiatsu can often occupy a greater advantage. While Whitebeard is no Shinigami, it appears to be the same in Zaraki Kenpachi. If you can't cut people, that's the problem of not enough Reiatsu. Reiatsu, it's easy. Advertisement. The corners of Zaraki Kenpachi's mouth curled up in a bloodthirsty, excited smile. He didn't see any movement, and a terrifying Reiatsu enveloped the space in all directions. This Reiatsu is so strong that it is enough to change the space, so that the gravity of the space here will continue to increase. Facing the powerful Reiatsu exuded by Zaraki Kenpachi, DADF, even Whitebeard stared at it slightly. Report your name. You are qualified to let this uncle remember your name. Zaraki Kenpachi stared at Whitebeard and paused. Edward Newgate. But Laozi prefers to be called Whitebeard. Whitebeard said in a low voice. Whitebeard, remember, my uncle's name is Zaraki Kenpachi. As soon as Zaraki Kenpachi's voice fell, the man, who was already like a ghost and Shira, rushed to Whitebeard again, and the soul-stirring Reiatsu slashed fiercely on Whitebeard's left chest with the sword in his hand. Puff. A bright red splashed out immediately. What? Kurosaki Ichigo's pupils constricted. He didn't expect that Zaraki Kenpachi would not back down after encountering the same problem as him, but went forward bravely. Zaraki Kenpachi, who attacked again, managed to cut Whitebeard. Not bad. Bell boy, you can still cut Laozi if you put your heart into it. Whitebeard glanced at the wound on his left chest and smiled instead of anger. Come on, fight with me to your heart's content. Advertisement. It was even more fun for Zaraki Kenpachi to see himself slaying Whitebeard after raising Reiatsu. My own thoughts were indeed correct. Cut does not hurt, that is Reiatsu not enough. Since Reiatsu is not enough, just put a little more. As a Shinigami who doesn't even know Shikai, his Reiatsu is almost as strong as Gote 13th Division. As long as it's something Reiatsu can fix, it's not a problem. You seem to have made a mistake. The immortal body obtained after the perfect fusion of cells, coupled with the cultivation of wood style and chakra, his physique is not only better than the peak period, but the protagonist Haki also respects the late Shire D. Luo Hao. With one punch, he flew upside down 1,000 meters away, and after trampling several 100-meter buildings, he was completely embedded in the ground tens of meters deep. This kind of existence is beyond the reach of the normal Zaraki Kenpachi. Since losing his shock fruit, he has focused all his energies on Conqueror's Haki, his physique. At about the same time, Whitebeard's left hand slammed out. It doesn't mean it's a recognition of your strength. After Whitebeard finished speaking, armament Haki wrapped around his left fist and hit Zaraki Kenpachi hard on the chest again. Zaraki Kenpachi's face turned pale, and a mouthful of blood spewed out of his mouth on the spot. Bell boy, just because you are not qualified to dance. What? Facing this punch, he had no power to resist. The punch force enough to blast a mountain hundreds of meters abruptly poured on Zaraki Kenpachi's abdomen like a torrent. Boom. Without any fruit ability, Haki can stand at the top of the pirate world with only his physical body. The punch that entangled armament Haki made Zaraki Kenpachi feel that everything in the world disappeared, only those 10 fists that were bigger than his head were left in his sight. At this time, even without chakra and wood style, he has the combat power of the peak Garp only with Conqueror's Haki and physique. Laozi just said that if you put your heart into it, you can cut Laozi, it's just a compliment. Whitebeard glanced at Zaraki Kenpachi, who seemed to be crazy, completely immersed in the joy and pleasure brought by the battle, and thrust Kong Yunchi into the ground with his right hand, and then spread his 5 fingers, like a big steel hand in Zaraki Kenpachi dusting his Zanpakuto under the glazed gaze. Advertisement. Chapter 183 Zangetsu. Is a bit unsavory. Advertisement. Partner news. Good. So amazing. Kurosaki Ichigo stared blankly at the scene in front of him. Just one punch. Zaraki Kenpachi, who was as strong as a demon in his eyes, was dealt with. The air that exploded violently agitated the air and punched out a terrifying shock-wave fist, which completely subverted his understanding of human beings. That's right. Although Kurosaki Ichigo has only become a Shinigami not long ago, he hasn't even learned all about Zonquan-Zugi. But eyesight is still a little bit. He saw it. The father in front of him who insists on him as his son is not at all Shinigami. But like Sato Yasutora, Kami Orihime, etc., they are all human through and through. Didn't Rukia say that humans are vulnerable to Shinigami? Why do I feel that Shinigami are vulnerable to humans? Kurosaki Ichigo glanced down at the Zangetsu in his hand. For some reason, he suddenly felt that the Zangetsu in his hand was not fragrant. Son, what's your name? Just when Kurosaki Ichigo was in a daze, Whitebeard walked up to him and looked at him lovingly. No way, Whitebeard is Whitebeard. Fraternity is incomparable. As far as sons are concerned, no matter whether they are newly acquired or have been acquired for decades, they are almost treated equally. Facing Kurosaki Ichigo, who had just been adopted as a son, he entered the state of a loving father. My name is Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo replied immediately after waking up from his stupor. Want to learn from dad? When Whitebeard watched Kurosaki Ichigo look at him, his eyes were full of admiration and longing, and he felt extremely proud. Think. Advertisement. Spicy sports moments. 25 top photos. Europress. Kurosaki Ichigo nodded frantically. What spiritual power? What Zangetsu? What Urahara Kazuki special training? FKU all. Laozi suffered so many beatings, he rushed all the way from the present world to Soul Society, and he was beaten so many times. In the end, he couldn't even break through Captain Shinigami, who was useless with a Shikai. There is also a ghost. It's better to learn from daddy's punch than to learn these. Just think about it. As long as you want, the teacher will teach you. Quote. Whitebeard patted Kurosaki Ichigo on the shoulder. Thank you, Dad. The protagonist is a creature that is so realistic. Facing the father who came to give away treasures, Kurosaki Ichigo acted like a good boy. The old man who didn't want to scream before being beaten to death, now screams louder than anyone else. I guess even when I was called Kurosaki Ishin, I didn't have such emotion. You are welcome. I'll teach you when Dad finishes his work. Although Whitebeard looked pleasing to the eye in front of the orange hedgehog, he hadn't forgotten the business just because he had adopted a son. He hasn't forgotten what he came to the world of Shinigami for. A lot of pretending. That's what he has to do now. Bang. Just when Kurosaki Ichigo nodded with joy, a shocking yellow Reiatsu shot up into the sky like a laser, and ruthlessly inserted into the sky of Seraiti. The appearance of this Reiatsu pillar instantly set off a violent hurricane in a radius of thousands of meters. Caught off guard, Kurosaki Jugo just felt blown away. He isn't dead yet. Advertisement. After Kurosaki Ichigo was blown away and hit the wall of a tall building, he was shocked to see Reiatsu, who was exuding yellow all over his body, walking towards Zaraki Kenpachi step by step from a distance. He couldn't imagine how the man survived. The punch that Whitebeard just gave, in his opinion, could sink even an island. The results of it, not only did Zaraki Kenpachi stand up again, but Reiatsu, who was wrapped around his body, was nearly 10 times stronger than before. 0 for flowers. Such a Reiatsu is beyond what an ordinary captain-level Shinigami can achieve. Oh, he's still alive. It seems that this blood is not so easy to get. It was a little surprising that Zaraki Kenpachi fell down, stood up immediately, and became stronger. However, he was relieved when he thought that the Shinigami in front of him was the captain just like Aizen Sosuke. But if you think you can compete with Laozi, then you should go back and practice for a few more years. Your power is indeed powerful, but it's a pity that it's so scattered that you can't exert its due power at all. And your swordsmanship is so vulgar, it's simply unsightly. Whitebeard looked at Zaraki Kenpachi and commented word by word. Whitebeard, you are the most powerful human being my uncle has ever seen. Although he is not a swordsman, he is the absolute king of the Grand Line after all. At this time, Zaraki Kenpachi, who reappeared, had removed the black blindfold covering one eye. None of them. For things like swordsmanship, he has never eaten pork, and he has seen pigs run. If you want to fight Laozi, you must at least learn swordsmanship seriously. Under the entanglement of the surging yellow Reiatsu that formed a skull pattern, he is like an immortal Shira, forever immune to death his evil spirits. Bell boy, you have some skills. Even the world's #1 swordsman Dracul Mahawk wants to challenge him. Whitebeard's eyelids didn't even twitch. While Zaraki Kenpachi can't be as powerful as Aizen Sosuke, he shouldn't be able to take a single punch from him either. Compared with those great swordsmen in Grand Line, Zaraki Kenpachi's swordsmanship is like a 3-year-old child holding a knife, not worth mentioning a million. Advertisement. Chapter 184. As far as Reiatsu is concerned, Laozi would like to call you the strongest. Advertisement. Fortunately, there is no rollover. When Zhang Chulin arrived belatedly, she saw Whitebeard standing proudly in front of Zaraki Kenpachi. Although he has just arrived, he can tell from the situation that Whitebeard still has the absolute advantage. This made him breathe a sigh of relief. Whitebeard is not only the only guarantee for him to settle down in the Shinigami world, but also the key to whether he can avoid the bottom and win a good ranking in this tournament. If even Whitebeard himself was overturned in the so-called Pacific battle between Zaraki Kenpachi and Kurosaki Ichigo, then Zhang Chulin would still pretend to be a fart. Honestly cowardly. The right to die in the world of 360 gods to see the scenery. As for things like pretending, it's okay to watch others pretend. Pretend is certainly a momentary pleasure, but he doesn't want to be pushed into the crematorium of the Shinigami world just because of this momentary pleasure. Didn't Aizen mess with the Pacific campaign? No, it should have moved. Luo Hao, who came to the battlefield early, kept his eyes on Zaraki Kenpachi. With what he knows about Aizen Sosuke, he has a huge home court advantage, and it's impossible for the guy not to take advantage of it. Especially when the other party knows that he and Zhang Chulin have the advantage of being a prophet, and he has forced most of it to pretend, it is impossible for Aizen Sosuke to remain indifferent. Luo Hao, I always feel something is wrong. Acid stared intently at Zaraki Kenpachi's eyes, and suddenly said to Luo Hao beside him. What's wrong? Luo Hao asked without looking back. Zaraki Kenpachi is so cool. From the moment I saw this man, I knew his Shinigami shell contained the soul of a beast. Advertisement. A beast, no matter how much it enjoys the joy and pleasure brought by the battle, when it realizes that the enemy's strength is enough to crush itself. No matter what, it will be a little anxious and heavy. Even if he wants to fight to the death, he still wants to kill others in the battle, instead of being hacked to death in a daze. Acid said. His trump card is the blindfold, and one move of the sword. While Luo Hao was speaking, the battle situation changed again. I saw that Zaraki Kenpachi, who was holding a knife with one hand and only knew how to slash like a beast, suddenly had an inexplicable aura. An indescribable heaviness, a sharp edge that seemed to split the earth and the sky in front of him slowly swept away from his body. This guy actually hid such a trick. Fortunately, Laozi was not careless, otherwise the car might overturn. As Zaraki Kenpachi's opponent, Whitebeard was naturally aware of the change in the opponent at the first time. Even under the perception of observation haki, before Zaraki Kenpachi made a move, he already knew the next move in advance. Recently, he has fully focused on Conqueror's haki. Not only armament haki and Conqueror's haki have been improved, but even observation haki is constantly moving towards the category of predicting the future. After all, an old man in his 70s regains his youth, has experienced the precipitation of years, the baptism of power systems in other worlds, and has a body young and strong enough to carry all these. His changes are naturally huge. Swordsmanship. Is this what you're talking about? Zaraki Kenpachi held the handle of the knife with both hands, and the reiatsu on his body that made ordinary captain-level Shinigami change color was no longer scattered, and he released it indiscriminately. On the contrary, all of them converge on one point, and they are constantly compressed and condensed on this basis. 0. This makes Zaraki Kenpachi's already huge, oppressive reiatsu even more terrifying. Advertisement. If Zaraki Kenpachi's reiatsu oppressed people before, it was like throwing people into a space where the gravity is several cups of normal, but now it is slashing directly at the human body with a huge blade. Obviously it's just reiatsu added to the body, but it makes people feel the stinging feeling of the blade added to the body. It is good. Anyway, Aizen is dead, now the most important thing is to kill this guy. Zaraki Kenpachi narrowed his eyes slightly, and an imperceptible flash of light flashed by. Zaraki Kenpachi pondered for a moment, then stopped thinking. Soon there was only one thought left in my mind. But forget it. None of it matters anymore. Does this man know Aizen too? Although, he didn't care about being found out, but he didn't want to be found out so quickly, and he didn't want to be found out because of Whitebeard's words. While Whitebeard praised Zaraki Kenpachi word by word, he didn't forget to cheat Aizen Sosuke. Swing the sword. Aizen, Laozi admits to underestimating you, bell boy. As far as reiatsu is concerned, besides Aizen Sosuke, Laozi would like to call you the strongest. Is there an unusual relationship with him, or is it an enemy with Aizen Sosuke? Whitebeard. Fortunately, the Shinigami who heard this was the more 5.6 Wood Kenpachi, the head-only fighting beast. Standing aside, after using Kyoka Suigetsu's ability, Aizen Sosuke, who couldn't be seen by Zaraki Kenpachi and other Shinigami except Luo Hao and others who could see him, suddenly turned black. If they were replaced by Kyoraku Shunsui and the others, it would probably be Lenovo Pianpian. Advertisement. Chapter 185. My name is Edward. Advertisement. Come on, Laozi admits you, Zaraki Kenpachi. You are qualified to dance in front of Laozi. Whitebeard stretched out his right hand and grabbed Kong Yunchi who was stuck beside him. He didn't see any movement, a stream of Conqueror's haki that distorts reality and interferes with matter, and hurricanes collided fiercely with Zaraki Kenpachi's stream of reiatsu in a majestic posture. The two of them didn't do anything at all, and just smashed the hundreds of meters of passage they were in an instant. The heavy, solid floors kept cracking and being overturned, as if they were run over by countless bulldozers. The way of the sword. 2 breaks. Zaraki Kenpachi releases Reiatsu to collide with Whitebeard's Conqueror's Haki, holds Zanpakuto tightly in his hand, then slowly raises it high, and then falls violently. The simple memorization of slashing and slashing allowed Whitebeard to see the kendo demeanor that belongs to the Shinigami world. In a trance, Whitebeard seemed to see a burly, powerful old man standing quietly behind Zaraki Kenpachi's 30, looking down with indifferent eyes that could burn everything down. Amazing. Your swordsmanship comes from that old man who looks like a scorching sun. Can teach a beast the art of swordsmanship. Laozi really wants to meet you for a while. A gleam flashed in Whitebeard's eye. A peek at Madara tells the whole story. With observation haki, and detached eyesight, he has seen it. The sword that Zaraki Kenpachi is now performing is not his own at all, but Yamamoto Genryusai behind him. Now it is not so much that Zaraki Kenpachi is performing his kendo, it is better to say that Yamamoto Genryusai uses Zaraki Kenpachi's body to perform his kendo. Click. Advertisement. Just when Whitebeard was stunned by the power of Yamamoto Genryusai, the Zanpakuto held by Zaraki Kenpachi in both hands had already been slashed down. Just the blade falls. Luo Hao and others who were watching the battle heard the sound of matter being cut off from their ears. Zaraki Kenpachi gathered all his Reiatsu swords and unleashed the atmosphere, even the sky. Come on, Laozi will play with you. Whitebeard stepped on the ground with both feet, like a giant spirit god, he stepped out of the ground into a crater tens of meters. Immediately afterwards, he held Kong Yunchi with both hands, the top armament haki wrapped around the blade, and then he slashed out forcefully. A slash that tore through the ground, entangled with the terrifying armament haki's slash, collided with the golden Reiatsu giant slash swung by Zaraki Kenpachi. It's all one knife. It's all about bringing all the power together. The collision of this knife instantly caused a bottomless and daunting chasm to appear in the sky above Seraiti. The surrounding buildings encountered the aftermath of the slash, not only collapsed one by one, but also were cut by countless blades. During the process of collapsing, the buildings were shattered into pieces of rubble with extremely neat cuts. Monster. Is this the power of a captain? Kurosaki Ichigo carried Zangetsu on his shoulders. Although he had stood far enough, he was still swept away by the slashing storm that swept over him 100 meters away. At this time, he just realized that Byakuya Kuchiki in this world didn't use his true skills at all when he abolished himself. If Byakuya Kuchiki is as strong as Zaraki Kenpachi, how can I save Rukia? After coming to Soul Society, he already knew that there are 13 captains like Zaraki Kenpachi and Byakuya Kuchiki. Father, from today onwards, you are my senior, Kurosaki Ichigo. If I remember correctly, Dad seems to be called Edward Newgate. Advertisement. Then my name is Edward Yijigu seems to be good. Thinking of this, Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Whitebeard so kindly and so hotly. Isn't this father who suddenly appeared and suddenly became his best support? Here pretend, there is really a risk of overturning. Although this kendo is good, you are not the one who uses it. One style kendo of Zaraki Kenpachi, after he spied the presence of Yamamoto Genryusai. Pity. The mysterious old Shinigami had managed to get his attention. In other words, he regards the old man Whitebeard as his hook. Instead, with a shout of daddy, he overthrew Soul Society. Whitebeard sighed secretly. It seems that the world of Aizen 367 is not simple. At this moment, Kurosaki Ichigo, who had already been beaten by the Soul Society before he started cheating, had already forgotten that he was a cheater. This old man is a batch. A captain who jumps out randomly has such strength, what about the captain? Completely surpasses the captain class Shinigami. It is estimated that in terms of strength, even Aizen Sosuke, the king of strength, is not as good as the old man who taught Zaraki Kenpachi in terms of strength. At this moment, what he thought of was no longer the dream of cutting down the Soul Society with a Zangetsu in hand. That old man is definitely a Soul Society hunk. Whitebeard competed with Zaraki Kenpachi at zero distance, and after clearly feeling Zaraki Kenpachi's kendo that belonged to Yamamoto Genryusai, he was also amazed by it. As the strongest man in the world, besides being keen on pretending and adopting sons, he is also very keen on being a challenger. Advertisement. Chapter 186 Shikai. Dad is going to roll over. Advertisement. Bellboy. Laozi will show you what strength is today. Seeing the existence of Yamamoto Genryusai, even if it was only the tip of the iceberg, made Whitebeard very excited. At the same time, when he looked at Zaraki Kenpachi in front of him after seeing the giant dragon, he felt a bit dull. Pretend in front of Zaraki Kenpachi, might as well pretend in front of Yamamoto Genryusai. Thinking of this, Whitebeard's eyes turned cold in vain, and the hands holding Kong Yunchi suddenly sank. Sheila. Originally, Zaraki Kenpachi unleashed a huge golden Reiatsu slash that could rival him. But now as his hands sank, Kong Yunchi's burst of slashing instantly crushed Zaraki Kenpachi's two-handed kendo, and then cut off Zaraki Kenpachi's Zanpakuto with a clang. If Laozi remembers correctly, most of your Shinigami's strength is concentrated on the Zanshin Dao. Now this Zanpakuto is broken. You don't say it's useless, but it's over. After Whitebeard swung Kong Yun cut off Zanpakuto, he stretched out his left hand, and under the gaze of Zaraki Kenpachi's rapidly shrinking pupils, he slammed his face like an eagle's claw. What? Zaraki Kenpachi had a look of shock on his face. Fangfo didn't expect that he couldn't shake Whitebeard in front of him even with his kendo. What was even more unexpected was that even his own Zanpakuto was cut off. Fortunately, Pretend succeeded. Dad didn't roll over. Zhang Chulin on the side immediately breathed a sigh of relief when he saw this scene. He was really afraid of what Aizen Sosuke had done in this specific battle. Fortunately, at most Zaraki Kenpachi stopped releasing water and took out two-handed kendo. Advertisement. Just this level, although powerful, is not enough to shake Whitebeard, whose strength has gradually surpassed the apex of Pirate World. Acedes, what will happen if you end up? Luo Hao glanced at Acedes beside him. That strike with two-handed swordsmanship, if I was caught off guard, I would be seriously injured, or even taken away by a single sword. Acedes was silent for a few seconds. She knew what Luo Hao meant. Zaraki Kenpachi is a big hole. Even if Aizen Sosuke didn't do anything in this specific battle, not everyone can pretend to be a wave in front of Zaraki Kenpachi. Fortunately, it was the third child in the chat, Whitebeard, who pretended just now. If it is the fourth sister, Acedes, that is her, it is estimated that the car will overturn. Judging from Zaraki Kenpachi's current strength, it doesn't mean that he will definitely lose. But it will definitely not be as pleasing to the eye as Whitebeard, pretending to be so awesome. In the end, the battle of pretend will most likely become a bitter battle. A battle in which the enemy cannot be crushed from beginning to end cannot be called pretend. On the contrary, this kind of battle falls in the eyes of Luo Hao and his friends, who typically pretend to be slapped in the face. It's not necessarily a bad thing if you lose a game of boxing with Whitebeard. Whitebeard is not a chance to win this pretend. On the contrary, he won a chance to step on the pit. Luo Hao's words made Acedes couldn't help turning his head to look at him. What do you mean by that? A trace of surprise appeared on Acedes' face. If she ends up, stepping on the pit is inevitable. Advertisement. But what about Whitebeard? Now the strongest man in the world is clearly pretending in front of Zaraki Kenpachi. How could it be a step on a pit? Before Luo Hao could speak, Zaraki Kenpachi, who had been cut off from Zanpakuto, let out a beast-like roar in vain. It wasn't until Unohana Retsu sacrificed himself that Zaraki Kenpachi learned to free his Zanpakuto. Just thinking with her toes, Zhang Chulin knew that the reason why Zaraki Kenpachi mastered Shikai at this time must be Aizen Sosuke. If they judge the opponents in Shinigami with their inherent profits, and some famous scenes that can be used for dancing and pretending, they will be slapped in the face at least, and sent to the crematorium at worst. The Acedes just now almost stepped on the pit. If he remembers correctly, Taiwan Solution, let alone Bankai. His Zanpakuto, which had been broken in two, not only healed and became intact, but also underwent a huge change in form under the envelope of yellow Reiatsu. Okay, in a Pacific battle, Zaraki Kenpachi had enough of two-handed swordsmanship and Shikai. But now, seeing this scene, Zhang Chulin's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a pinhole. As for why they did this, it was obviously to guard against him and Luo Hao. From a serrated Zanpakuto to a long-handled knife with an exaggeratedly large blade. After he exclaimed in his mouth, he suddenly turned his head and looked at the Aizen objects beside him. Backquote Shikai. Oops. Daddy is about to roll over. The soaring yellow Reiatsu surged out of Zaraki Kenpachi's body like a waterfall flowing backwards. Aizen definitely did it. Bang. Eat it, Nozarashi. Although Whitebeard has replaced Acedes now, he still cannot escape the fate of stepping on the pit. Advertisement. Chapter 187 billion. Brother Ichigo, don't panic. Big brother is here. Advertisement. What the hell? Whitebeard looked at the transformed Zanpakuto in Zaraki Kenpachi's hand, his small eyes were full of surprise. It's just that the knife has changed its shape, and it feels like an earth-shaking change. Father, be careful, Zaraki Kenpachi is a big pit. In addition to Shikai, he can go further to Bankai. Just when Whitebeard was amazed, Zhang Chulin, who was standing on the top of a tall building, suddenly yelled. Obviously, it is not only Edward Ichigo, but also Zhang Chulin who regard Whitebeard as the capital of his life. If Whitebeard fails to pretend in this bloody battle and is sent to the crematorium instead, then he can also return to the world under one man in advance. It's just an ordinary battle in the Pacific, where even Kurosaki Ichigo, who has not yet learned Yuya Tianchong and Bankai, can pass the battle, but it can make the third brother in the skirt chat, Whitebeard, overturn. It is conceivable that the later famous scenes that he thought could be used to pretend have all been quietly transformed by Aizen to become extremely terrifying. Can't even play Whitebeard. He, Zhang Chulin, even did a fart dance. It is better to go back to the world under one person early, turn on the live broadcast and watch Luo Hao and Aizen Sosuke dance quietly in front of the screen. At least, so his life is not in danger. What? Big pit. That kid Billion knows the future direction. Even he said it was a big hole. Could it be that Zaraki Kenpachi was not so strong, but was manipulated by you? That's right. It must be Aizen's bad-bellied guy who wants Laozi not only not to get the first blood, but also to overturn on the spot. When Whitebeard heard this, his face immediately tightened. He was not an idiot, and he immediately reacted. Advertisement. It is obvious that this specific campaign has been tampered with. Zaraki Kenpachi, who played Poseidon, is infinitely stronger, reaching the pinnacle of his life. Only the host of the conference, Aizen, can make such a thing happen. Is that my elder brother? Sure enough, he is a good-looking talent. Shi Yuxuan is very proud. No wonder you can become my Ichigo's big brother. Kurosaki Ichigo, who had just been shaken by the aftermath of a fight between Whitebeard and Zaraki Kenpachi, looked up at Zhang Chulin. When he heard that the other party called Whitebeard his father just like himself, he already regarded Zhang Chulin as his second brother. In his opinion, his father was so kind to his newly recognized son, so Zhang Chulin, who was adopted as his son by his father early on, must have also received his true biography. I'm afraid it's impossible to overthrow the 13th Division of the guarding court with only my father. You must also call the eldest brother. Edward Ichigo thought to himself. Zhang Chulin, who was worried about Whitebeard's pretend situation, even thought that once Whitebeard overturned, he would immediately return to the world under one person. However, Zhang Chulin recalled that a Kurosaki Ichigo who had never met him had long regarded him as a big brother, and even wanted to he asked him to help get through the 13th Division of the court. Brother, don't panic. Even if dad is in danger, we brothers can stand shoulder to shoulder. Even if Zaraki Kenpachi, Dace, can liberate Zanpakuto, we, father and son, will not love him. Just do what you want will always be Edward Ichigo's motto. Seeing that the eldest brother Zhang Chulin was worried about the situation of his father Whitebeard, he immediately ran over with Zangetsu on his shoulders. Quote. Aizen Sosuke. Seeds. Mewtwo. Advertisement. Quote. Zhang Chulin. Which one are you? When did Xiaoyi get a second younger brother in the Shinigami world? Could it be that dad just came to the Shinigami world not long ago, and he accepted a new son? When Zhang Chulin heard someone yelling at herself, she was stunned for a moment, and then turned her head suddenly. When he saw the familiar butcher's knife and the iconic orange head, the disgust in his heart was immediately swept away. Brother Ichigo, don't panic. Big brother is here. Come up quickly, it's dangerous down there. Zhang Chulin was so happy that she almost fainted when she saw that she had an extra younger brother who was obsessed with it for no reason. Who doesn't know that among the three major migrant workers, Kurosaki Ichigo is the one who is the most exaggerated? You don't need anything, just carry a butcher's knife and beat from the beginning to the end. Facing Aizen. It doesn't matter. Not only there is the last crescent moon, but it can also be used to make Aizen Sosuke's Kyoka Suigetsu collapse automatically, and it can also prevent Aizen Sosuke from using Kyoka Suigetsu on him from the beginning to the end. Forget it. Aizen Sosuke is still unscathed after carrying the last crescent sky, and will be able to stand up immediately. But after suffering from Kurosaki Ichigo's knife, Aizen Sosuke actually gave up the evolution by himself and went straight to GG. Faced with such a coercion, Zhang Chulin took the initiative to send him to his door to be his little brother, and Zhang Chulin naturally accepted it happily. Great. Even if the old man died unfortunately in the Pacific War, the young man is not afraid anymore. With the help of the second younger brother, the situation of the young master will be stabilized this time at the 10,000 Realms Pretend Conference. Quote. Zhang Chulin thought to himself. Advertisement. Chapter 188 Wishing you happiness, chirp. Advertisement. Brother, little brother is here too. Kurosaki Ichigo, who regards Zhang Chulin as a fierce man and a savior, did not know that Zhang Chulin, a newly recognized cheap brother, also regards him as Optimus Prime. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo heard Zhang Chulin's yell, thinking that Zhang Chulin saw that he was in danger and wanted to protect him like his father, so he immediately crawled towards the roof. Brother. Second brother. When Kurosaki Ichigo climbed to the roof, Zhang Chulin immediately stepped forward and grabbed Kurosaki Ichigo's hands affectionately. In the same way, Kurosaki Ichigo was very moved when he saw that Zhang Chulin, who was suddenly in a group, did not dislike himself as a weak chicken, but, like his father Whitebeard, regarded himself as his own as soon as they met. Whitebeard's sin. Luo Hao, who had a panoramic view of this scene, couldn't help shaking his head. Ichigo, who was so good at teasing, was forced to be cowarded by Whitebeard in a very short period of time. Is this still the raw-head Ichigo who slammed the sky and slashed to the finale with a butcher's knife called Zangetsu in his hand? Sure enough, Whitebeard really can't raise a son. The former Potter caste ace raised him for so many years and didn't know how to hockey. The later Zhang Chulin and the current Kurosaki Ichigo have all been cultivated by him without exception. Brother, who are these? Is he also father's son? Recognizing his elder brother Billion, Fangfo found the organization, and after the excitement and panic in his heart stabilized a little, Kurosaki Ichigo also found that besides Zhang Chulin, there were a man, a woman, and a kangaroo standing on the roof. As for Aizen Sosuke and Ichimaru Jin, because they did not cast Kyoka Suigetsu on them, when Kurosaki Ichigo climbed up, Aizen Sosuke and Ichimaru Jin had already put on a black robe, even acquaintances could not recognize them. They do not. Zhang Chulin's face changed when he heard this. What a joke. The backgrounds of these people around me are more fierce than one. Either one is at least on par with Whitebeard. One of them is above Whitebeard in identity and status. Advertisement. This must be the big sister. Gossip to Kurosaki, Whitebeard's newest son. Before Zhang Chulin finished speaking, Kurosaki Ichigo walked up to Seeds in a familiar way, and said amazingly. Pretty. Luo Hao immediately gave a thumbs up for Kurosaki Ichigo's death. I wish you happiness, Yijigu. Zhang Chulin opened his mouth, but in the end he couldn't say anything. At this time, he can only silently bless Kurosaki Ichigo in his heart. Aizen, really saw the right person. Ichigo is indeed a man who can be chosen as an opponent compared to me back then. This courage alone is not something ordinary people can possess. Wearing a black robe and hiding his identity, Aizen Sosuke directly gave Kurosaki Ichigo a thumbs up. A muttering, right, go all the way. Cheomung reached out and patted Kurosaki Ichigo's shoulder, and said something that made him feel inexplicable. What's wrong? Kurosaki Ichigo, who didn't know that he was jumping back and forth on the edge of life and death, immediately showed a blank expression. Gee, what did you call me just now? Asitas's voice exuding icy coldness floated faintly. Big sister, isn't it right? Kurosaki Ichigo shuddered. Asitas smiled and said nothing. Just centering on her body, an extremely violent and cold air swept across Kurosaki Ichigo like a storm. 0 for flowers. Advertisement. In an instant, Ichigo had turned into a popsicle. Aren't you courting death? Zhang Chulin swallowed hard. The matter of his son's fruit before made Asides feel ashamed and ashamed. Now Kurosaki Ichigo actually ran over to ask Ace Des if he was Whitebeard's daughter, and called him big sister. Even he doesn't have such courage. What's wrong? Do you, a mumbling elder brother, want to avenge your second younger brother? 0. After freezing Kurosaki Ichigo with a snap of his fingers, Acide suddenly turned his head and stared at Zhang Chulin, looking at him with horror. Hey, the family is unlucky. Your Majesty, our Edward family has produced a scum like GGU, and it is because of me, the chef, who is not good at discipline. Now that I am the eldest son of the Edward family, I will kick Ichigo out of the family. Billion. This is the reality of birth. A second ago, he and his second brother Ichigo staged a touching scene of brothers recognizing each other. Next second, not only did they disassociate themselves from the relationship, but they also had to clean up the door, and even made a gesture of crossing Ichigo's name from Edward's family tree. It's really lucky for him to have a big brother like you. Asides glanced at Zhang Chulin with a half smile. Your Majesty, isn't my young master helping my relatives? Zhang Chulin smiled apologetically, and glanced at Kurosaki Ichigo who had been frozen into an ice sculpture. He thought to himself, the ice density of Asides should be good. Kurosaki Ichigo is so frozen that he shouldn't be able to hear him. You shouldn't be able to hear a chirp. I will help it thaw later, we are a pair of good brothers again. Advertisement. Chapter 189 Wood Style. That's it. Advertisement. After Shikai, just changing the shape of the knife has already made Laozi smell the danger. As for Bankai, if one is not handled well, isn't Laozi about to overturn? Whitebeard has no time to worry about Zhang Chulin's affairs. Whether it is Kurosaki Ichigo being frozen, or Zhang Chulin and Kurosaki Ichigo, fighting in the same room, he has no time to pay attention. At this point, his attention was fully on Zaraki Kenpachi. Zaraki Kenpachi before, even if he used his swordsmanship, he could only face him a little bit. Because even the mighty swordsmanship is not the power of Zaraki Kenpachi. It's just that Yamamoto Genryusai borrowed Zaraki Kenpachi's hand to use his own sword, 160. But after Zaraki Kenpachi took out Shikai, the way he looked at Shikai changed. Whitebeard, you seem a little too arrogant. Zaraki Kenpachi, carrying a Zanpakuto called Nozarashi, stared at Whitebeard with dark but brutal eyes. At this moment, there were only a few words written on his face. Old man, you are quite arrogant. Looks like Zanpakuto's Shikai has you getting a little supercilious. Worth mentioning, Laozi will let you experience what horror is today. Whitebeard clasped his hands together and began to seal at the speed of a tortoise. Facing the unknown depth and Zanpakuto ability, which was even more weird than Devil Fruit, he still showed enough caution. I plan to use Wood Style to test the depth of Zaraki Kenpachi. Wood Style Birth of the Tree World. With the sound of the ground cracking, a large forest rose up from the ground. In an instant, the terrain for kilometers around has been rewritten by Whitebeard. Off. Zaraki Kenpachi glanced at the surrounding forest, with a look of disdain on his lips. Immediately afterwards, he picked up Nozarashi and slammed forward. Advertisement. Bang. The violent Reiatsu slashed across the forest like a typhoon. In the blink of an eye, the forest cast by Whitebeard Wood Style has been completely shattered. With just one blow, Wood Style the birth of the tree world has become a thing of the past. Apart from leaving a few broken branches and fallen leaves on the ground, the forest that covered several kilometers of land has been wiped out. What the hell is this knife? Seeing this scene, not only Whitebeard, but also Asides and others beside him changed color one after another. Even Aizen Sosuke, who quietly played this scene, was amazed. Well done. As expected of Zaraki Kenpachi, captain of the Shinigami, who outperformed most queens without liberating Zanpakuto. Just Shikai's knife, the destructive power is so terrifying. Wood Style. That's it. Zaraki Kenpachi glanced at Whitebeard and shook his head in disappointment. It can be seen that he, the fit member of the 11th team, is full of disdain for Whitebeard's so-called Wood Style. How dare you pretend in front of Laozi? Visible to the naked eye, blue veins popped out of Whitebeard's forehead, like small snakes. Ever since he entered Whitebeard, he was the only one who pretended in front of others. There is no time to be pretended in front of him. Wood Style Wood Dragon Technique. Without any hesitation. Whitebeard fired at once. With a snap of his fingers, he created a huge wooden dragon that held Zaraki Kenpachi down with one claw. It's more interesting than before. Come on, keep dancing. Zaraki Kenpachi resisted the dragon's claw with a knife in one hand while grinning at Yuhuzi. This line is really familiar. Luo Hao showed a playful look. 0. Advertisement. Unknowingly, the positions of the two seemed to be reversed. Zaraki Kenpachi actually made Whitebeard dance to please him instead. Problem occurs. Daddy pretended not to succeed, but was pretended back in reverse. Seeing this scene, Zhang Chulin immediately looked at Aizen Sosuke beside him. Although he was wearing a black robe, he seemed to be able to see Aizen Sosuke's playful smile hidden under the black robe. It's a good thing I didn't go up. Seeing this, Asides couldn't help but secretly rejoice that he had lost to the day in boxing games. Otherwise, 9 out of 10 will be overshadowed by Aizen Sosuke. Zaraki Kenpachi, Laozi will give you another chance to reorganize the language. Whitebeard stared sullenly at Zaraki Kenpachi. At this time, he was like when his son had just been hammered to death. That gloomy, depressed face told everyone that he, the strongest man in the world, was about to explode. Can't accept the position swap between you and me. Then come and beat me. Zaraki Kenpachi grinned. Been beaten for so long. It's been so long since someone installed 4.4. Even the Buddha is angry. What's more, he is not a Buddha, but the grumpy captain of the 11th team. Boy, you don't even know what terror is. Whitebeard yelled in vain. As his hands formed seals slowly, a huge wooden golem with a wooden dragon wrapped around its neck soared into the sky. As soon as wooden golem came out, he raised his hand and slapped Zaraki Kenpachi. With a bang, a deep pit with a radius of more than a kilometer has been slapped out by wooden golem with a palm. And Zaraki Kenpachi was photographed deep underground with his Zanpakuto Nozarashi. Advertisement. Chapter 190 Zaraki Bankai. Seraiti 12 speakers. Advertisement. Little bell boy, weren't you quite rude just now? Stand up for Laozi. Keep dancing. Whitebeard stood on top of wooden golem, looking down from where Zaraki Kenpachi had just stood. Starting with wooden golem, coupled with that furious look, one can imagine how angry Whitebeard is now. Mountains and rivers came to the Shinigami world, but the first blood of the conference was not perfectly won, but was reversed. This was regarded as a great shame by him. Bang! As if in response to Whitebeard's growl. When his voice fell, the cause began to move violently. One after another hideous, python-like cracks began to extend. In a short while, the deep pit slapped by wooden golem was already covered with dense, criss-cross cracks. It looks like a snake pit intertwined with giant pythons. Immediately afterwards, a burst of golden Reiatsu gushes from each slit. Under the cover of the majestic Reiatsu that burned the earth golden, Zaraki Kenpachi rose from the ground and entered Whitebeard's sight again. Don't you want me to dance? Open your eyes and see clearly. Zaraki Kenpachi stepped into the void, staring at Whitebeard with a dark, icy gaze. After finishing speaking, he held Nozarashi and pointed at Whitebeard. Bankai. Advertisement. Bang. A loud noise that shook the Soul Society suddenly sounded. The terrifying Reiatsu pierced the Soul Society's sky like an Optimus Prime. As long as it is Shinigami within Seraiti, they can clearly see the yellow Reiatsu that is like a pillar of Buddha. Zaraki Kenpachi's body flew higher and higher under Reiatsu's wrap. At the same time, his body kept bursting out wave after wave of huge storms that swept Seraiti. The Shinigami captains and vice-captains who were originally worrying about Aizen's death and the invasion of the travel disaster all put down their actions at this moment, and at the same time suddenly looked in the direction of Zaraki Kenpachi. This Reiatsu surprisingly surpasses the category of captain class. In the present world, GGG cuts a sword in seconds, and at the same time, he helped Yijigu open a Zangetsu and cut down all the powerful enemies in the Shinigami world. Byakuya Kuchiki stared at the direction of Zaraki Kenpachi, the iceberg face that has not changed for 10,000 years. There was a rare look of shock. Waiting for Reiatsu. Even after Bankai, he is far behind. He also experienced this amazing Reiatsu only in Yamamoto Genryusai. It's Zaraki Kenpachi. Hieraku Shunsui, who had been keeping quiet all this time, looked at the soaring yellow beam of light in the distance. While shocked, he immediately picked up two Zanpakuto, and rushed towards Zaraki Kenpachi. Laymen watch the excitement, experts watch the doorway. A superficial pretender like Byakuya Kuchiki only saw the strength of Zaraki Kenpachi, but he captured a lot of information from Zaraki Kenpachi's Reiatsu. Zaraki Kenpachi has mastered Bankai. And who can make Zaraki Kenpachi unleash Bankai? The one who killed Aizen Sosuke. Is there such a strong man in the journey? With doubts one after another, Hieraku Shunsui, who was second only to Aizen Sosuke in the Shinigami world in terms of pretending, rushed towards Zaraki Kenpachi without hesitation. At the same time, his good friend also made the same move, Jashiro Yukitaki, who was either on the way to cure the disease or was on the way to cure the disease. Advertisement. Zaraki Kenpachi. He has Bankai. Could someone help him? Could it be Captain Unohana? In the 4th division, Unohana Retsu, who was healing an injured Shinigami, stood up abruptly. How can such a Shinigami communicate with Zanpakuto and learn Bankai? Except for Yamamoto Genryusai, the leading leader, who was not dispatched, Hong Xing. No, the 12 speakers of Seraiti all swarmed towards the position of Zaraki Kenpachi, the leader of the 11th team. Zaraki Kenpachi's change made her feel unbelievable, but also uneasy. In the team dormitory of the first team, Yamamoto Genryusai, who was practicing calligraphy, suddenly broke the brush in his hand. First Aizen's death, followed by Zaraki Kenpachi's eerie Bankai. In the eyes of Zaraki Kenpachi, it is just a handy tool. After pondering for a moment, still unable to figure it out, she immediately Shikai, turned the Zanpakuto in her hand into the form of a devil fish, and then took the Zanpakuto and flew towards Zaraki Kenpachi. Apart from me, no one in Seraiti should be able to help him liberate Zanpakuto. As the leader who taught Zaraki Kenpachi, the beast kendo in Shinigami, and personally awarded him the title of Gote Shisanban's leader, he really knows Zaraki Kenpachi very well. Even Zanpakuto was picked up by other Shinigami. Who on earth helped Zaraki liberate the 417 knives? Zaraki Kenpachi seems to be the kind of person who doesn't trust anyone but himself. Suddenly, all the captains in Seraiti were shocked by Zaraki Kenpachi's Bankai. All of this made her unpredictable. Even the captain may not be able to do it. Her gaze seemed to be able to penetrate the barrier of space, reaching Zaraki Kenpachi directly. They all seemed to have some tacit understanding. Advertisement. Chapter 191 Such a Reiatsu, Laozi recognizes you. Advertisement. Is this the Bankai that Billion said? Whitebeard first looked up at the sky that was almost yellowed by Zaraki Kenpachi's terrifying Reiatsu, and then looked up at Zaraki Kenpachi who was wrapped in yellow Reiatsu all over his body. At this time, when he faced Zaraki Kenpachi, he no longer looked down upon him as before. Although on the surface, he is still looking down on Zaraki Kenpachi, but in his heart he has paid more attention to Zaraki Kenpachi. Misfortune. Zaraki Kenpachi raised his head suddenly, his eyes not only became blood red, but also showed a black line from his forehead to the eyes. Coupled with the two sharp horns that continue to extend from his forehead. At this time, Zaraki Kenpachi looks like a ghost crawling out of hell, from a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. It's a completely different person from before. Whitebeard looked at Zaraki Kenpachi, who had changed greatly, and felt the suffocating Reiatsu that was continuously released from his body, filling the space of thousands of meters, and suddenly laughed. Gu la la la. Such Reiatsu. Such oppression. Laozi approves of you, Zaraki Kenpachi. Facing the enemy, Whitebeard, who has always been very rude and never called others by their names, only called out their nicknames, called Zaraki Kenpachi's name for the first time. The familiar bell sound is gone. There are only 4 syllables full of recognition, Zaraki Kenpachi. Roar. It's just that Zaraki Kenpachi after Bankai obviously can't control his power very well. After Zanpakuto was completely liberated, at this point he was devoured by evil spirits. Only the fighting instinct and consciousness remained. Advertisement. With a long roar that set off a huge Reiatsu storm, Zaraki Kenpachi moved. Except for Luo Hao and Aizen Sosuke, almost no one present could see Zaraki Kenpachi's movement clearly. He is like an evil ghost who has the ability to teleport. There was no movement of his feet, and the person had appeared in front of Whitebeard out of thin air. Quick backquote. Whitebeard narrowed his eyes. He couldn't keep up with this speed. You can only rely on the perception of observation haki to predict in advance and then make a response. But when he raised his knife and slashed a 1,000-meter long terrifying strike at Zaraki Kenpachi, who was close at hand, Zaraki Kenpachi seemed to be able to predict the future. Before his knife was drawn, Zaraki Kenpachi had moved to Whitebeard's side again, and slashed Whitebeard's back with his backhand. Click. At the critical moment, although Whitebeard stretched out 16 wooden arms from behind and wrapped around armament haki, they were cut off instantly in front of the Zanpakuto held by Zaraki Kenpachi. Moreover, after Zaraki Kenpachi's saber fell, Luo Hao and others could clearly see that the atmosphere in front of Zaraki Kenpachi tore a huge gap visible to the naked eye. Immediately afterwards, the sword pressure, which was more violent than the raging tsunami and the erupting magma, crushed Whitebeard's back without reservation. With just one stab, Whitebeard was blasted in and out, his body rubbed against the ground and flew backwards 1,000 meters away. Boom. But Whitebeard is the strongest man in the world after all. At the same time he was knocked into the air, the wooden golem under his feet also punched Zaraki Kenpachi. But when wooden golem's fist fell on Zaraki Kenpachi, he had already blocked wooden golem's fist with a knife in advance. In a burst of thunder that stirred up huge ripples, wooden golem's entire arm was cut off by Zaraki Kenpachi. Advertisement. Captain Aizen, you are going too far. Luo Hao looked at Zaraki Kenpachi's sudden fascination, and couldn't help but glance at Aizen Sosuke. After all, it's a pleasure to pretend for a while, but it's inevitable to go to the crematorium if you keep pretending. Wang's Zhao. Although Luo Hao is not overcast, Aizen Sosuke still feels extremely comfortable seeing one of the strong competitors in this conference. Whitebeard is about to overturn and be eliminated. You think I don't know that Zaraki Kenpachi is going to stage a Pacific battle for Kurosaki Ichigo? Hokage-sama, I don't understand well. Luo Hao also didn't delve into Aizen Sosuke's little tricks. That can only be blamed on Whitebeard's incompetence. Since he dared to come to Aizen Sosuke's territory to pretend, of course he must be able to withstand the means of forcing the king. At this moment, he only felt that the aggrievedness of being forced to pretend by Luo Hao and being silenced had disappeared. After all, when Aizen Sosuke held the Myriad Worlds Pretend Conference, it had clearly stated the rules, and at the same time stated the risks of the conference to all skirt friends. Backquote. It's okay if you don't understand. Don't blame me, Whitebeard. I originally prepared this blood for Master Hokage, and wanted to use Zaraki Kenpachi to figure out his path, but I didn't expect you to help him step into the pit. What do you mean by that? Pretend is risky, you need to be cautious when joining the club. Aizen Sosuke watched Whitebeard being rubbed hard on the ground by Zaraki Kenpachi, and the smile on his face grew brighter. Aizen Sosuke said with a blank face. Anyway, that's pretty good. It's just that the poor old man is out of the game. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 192 Father and son love Zhang Chulin deeply. Advertisement. Damn it, it's even stronger than Ichigo the Tao. Not only did Daddy not get the first blood, but he will be cold in all likelihood. Seeing this scene, Zhang Chulin's heart was already chilled. He even had the idea of returning directly to the world under one person. There is no way, this Myriad Worlds pretend conference is too dangerous. Well, the Pacific battle was changed to hell mode by Aizen abruptly. Even Whitebeard, who mastered the two major power systems of pirates and Hokage, was rubbed on the ground by Zaraki Kenpachi. If he dares to pretend in the Shinigami world with his small body, maybe a miscellaneous Shinigami jumping out from the roadside may give him a bankai. In this regard, Zhang Chulin has no doubts at all. After seeing that Zaraki Kenpachi was magically changed by Aizen Sosuke to the point of directly opening bankai, he knew very well that the Shinigami king in front of him would do anything to pretend. Do you want to leave directly? Zhang Chulin began to meditate with an uncertain expression. Just when he was about to make up his mind to return to the world under one person, out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of Kurosaki Ichigo who was frozen into an ice sculpture by his seeds. 403 That's right, I almost forgot that there is still this hang. Although Aizen helped Zaraki Kenpachi open it, but in the world of Shinigami, who can open it up? Coupled with the natural restraint of Aizen, Jigu can make Aizen gradually reduce its intelligence. Just use him to help Dad pass the level. Thinking of this, Zhang Chulin's eyes suddenly brightened. After all, he and Whitebeard are like father and son. If he hadn't had to, he would have left Whitebeard and gone alone. There is still this bit of integrity. Advertisement. Fire style great fireball technique. After having DABC made a decision, Zhang Chulin immediately gave up the idea of withdrawing to the world under one person, and then made seals with both hands, and opened her mouth to blow a mouthful of great fireball at Kurosaki Ichigo. Also thanks to the excellent quality of Acid's ice sculptures. Zhang Chulin's great fireball didn't directly burn Kurosaki Ichigo to death, but simply melted the ice. A chirp, are you alright? Zhang Chulin reached out to catch Kurosaki Ichigo who almost fell to the ground. Brother, I'm fine. Kurosaki Ichigo immediately realized that it was Zhang Chulin who saved him. You and Daddy are so kind to me, it's really hard for Yijigu to repay you. When he thought of the time when his father stepped forward first, and then when he was frozen by Acidus, his elder brother rescued him again, he was moved and choked up. It's okay, now I have a chance to repay me and my father. Zhang Chulin followed the advice carefully. What chance? As long as I can use my place, I will never refuse. Kurosaki Ichigo asked in a daze. How can I help my elder brother Billion and my father Whitebeard with my small body? This guy is dead. He must be pitted to death by Billion. Yijigu, it's not good for you to recognize someone as a big brother, but you recognize Chu Lan, hey. Luo Hao, Aizen Sosuke, Acids and others on the side saw Yijigu who had completely fallen into Billion's trap without knowing it, and all of them looked at him with pity. Don't worry, it will definitely come in handy. Advertisement. You heard me clearly, chirping. The liberation of Zanpakuto is of two kinds. One is Shikai, which is the current form of your Zangetsu. On the basis of Shikai, there is another kind of liberation called Bankai. Zanpakuto only Bankai is his true form, and his full power. While talking, Zhang Chulin picked up Zangetsu on the ground and put it back in Kurosaki Ichigo's hand. Could it be that big brother wants to pass me Bankai? Thinking of this, Kurosaki Ichigo suddenly became elated. Although he already feels that the Zangetsu in his hand is a bit unsavory, but if he can learn Bankai, it is still good in his opinion. After all, the more strength, the more hope when saving Rukia. What's more, he still has a debt that has not been settled with Byakuya Kuchiki. Not completely an idiot, when he heard Zhang Chulin talk about Bankai, he was basically certain in his heart that Byakuya Kuchiki who taught him how to be a human being in this world in the past most likely also learned Bankai. And to do Bankai, it is necessary to completely liberate Zanpakuto's true name, and to make Zanpakuto materialize and submit. But in my opinion, knowing Zanpakuto's real name is the key. Because even if some Zanpakuto are concretized, or even succumbed, they still live up to their hearts, often they will not say their real names, and at most they will only say half of them. So, as long as you know the real name of Zanpakuto, Bankai is not far away. Quote. Zhang Chulin didn't know whether it was because of the guilt brought about by cheating Kurosaki Ichigo soon, or because he was worried that Kurosaki Ichigo was too weak and would be cheated to death by himself before he could cheat. He instilled Bankai's ideas in Kurosaki Ichigo on the spot mystery. Zangetsu's real name. Brother, Zanpakuto is not the full name of my Zanpakuto. Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes flashed. He understood what Zhang Chulin meant. Zangetsu is not yet his full Zanpakuto name, probably only half, or even half. Advertisement. Chapter 193 Bankai, Second Brother. Advertisement. You are absolutely right, to help Papa, and to empower you to save Rukia. The eldest brother decided to backfire once and tell you Zangetsu's real name, directly, so that you can directly save decades of hard work. Quote. Zhang Chulin put her hand on Kurosaki Ichigo's shoulder. Brother, you are so kind to me, it really leaves me speechless. Kurosaki Ichigo was silent for a few seconds, and then the group said these words. It's okay, you can repay me with practical actions. Remember, your Zanpakuto's real name is Tensa Zangetsu. Zhang Chulin stared at Kurosaki Ichigo, and after giving him Bankai's name word by word, then while Kurosaki Ichigo was still in a daze, he suddenly reached out and lifted him up. Brother, dare to ask, what do you want to do? Kurosaki Ichigo looked down at Zhang Chulin. Throw you over there to help Dad. Zhang Chulin adjusted the angle while talking. Help Daddy. Kurosaki Ichigo turned his head to look, just in time to see Zaraki Kenpachi, who was like a ghost wielding a Zanpakuto that looked like a broken blade, and slashed at Whitebeard, the giant Reiatsu blade that divided the kilometer of land. Hiss. Brother, you won't let me deal with that guy, will you? Seeing this, Kurosaki Ichigo's entire face turned pale. Right, didn't you just say that as long as you can help your father, you will never refuse? Now is the chance. Quote. Zhang Chulin nodded, and then made a throwing gesture. Calm down, brother. This is deadly. Kurosaki Ichigo struggled to his feet with a face full of horror. Advertisement. What a joke. That monster Zaraki Kenpachi obviously turned on Bankai. At this time, he was like an evil ghost, shattering 1,000 meters of ground with a single blow, and smashing out deep pits that can only be formed by meteorites hitting the ground with a single punch. With such power, once he passes by, he is afraid that he will go to see his mother with a knife. Others may die, but you will never die, Zhang Chulin said firmly. Why are you so sure? Kurosaki Ichigo asked, a little puzzled. Because you called Yijigu. Zhang Chulin spat out a sentence with a serious face, and then threw him in the direction of Zaraki Kenpachi regardless of Kurosaki Ichigo's struggle. What? This throw not only threw Kurosaki Ichigo into the fire pit, but also threw out the brotherhood that had just been established with great difficulty. A chirp. If you don't want to die, then Bankai. Zhang Chulin shouted. You be asterisk 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 D brother. Kurosaki Ichigo turned his head and roared at Zhang Chulin behind him. He wasn't exactly a fool, but he still didn't know that he was tricked by Zhang Chulin. The cheap brother himself made it clear that seeing his father was in danger, but he was unwilling to take the risk to save him, so he fooled himself, and then threw him at Zaraki Kenpachi. A chirping Bankai. Zhang Chulin automatically ignored Kurosaki Ichigo's roar, reminding herself. Roar. When Kurosaki Ichigo heard it, he was about to scold Zhang Chulin angrily, but he heard a beast and ghost-like roar from ahead. Thinking that he was about to fly to Zaraki Kenpachi, he quickly turned his head, and immediately saw the picture of Zaraki Kenpachi chopping Whitebeard away with a knife. FK. Dad is no match for him. Advertisement. What am I going to do? Kurosaki Ichigo panicked when he saw that Whitebeard was beaten by Zaraki Kenpachi. Especially when he noticed that Zaraki Kenpachi knocked Whitebeard flying with a knife and looked at him, his heart was completely cold. 0 for flowers. Trademark cause. Zaraki Kenpachi looked at Kurosaki Ichigo flying over, thinking that there was another prey coming. He first let out a creepy laugh, and then raised his hand under Kurosaki Ichigo's pale face and stabbed him. Do not. Seeing Zaraki Kenpachi's action, Kurosaki Ichigo's whole brain went blank for a moment. Bankai. Second brother. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Zhang Chulin's hasty voice pierced into his brain like a knife, making him wake up in shock. 0. Bankai. Bankai is okay for me. Just call out his real name. Kurosaki Ichigo played like a drowning man grasping at the last straw. He didn't bother to find out if Zhang Chulin had lied to him, and he didn't care to think about whether Bankai was really that easy, he just called him by any name. At this time, he had already regarded Bankai as his last hope. He could only hold Zanpakuto tightly with his right hand, and from a distance, he slashed at Zaraki Kenpachi with the knife. I don't know whether it was Zangetsu who gave him courage, or he felt that he must die, so he simply let go and gave it a go. Facing Zaraki Kenpachi with a ferocious expression like a devil, Kurosaki Ichigo actually forgot his fear at this moment. In a trance, a sentence suddenly came to my mind. Forget fear and look forward bravely. Go forward, don't stop, retreat will only grow old, and cowardice will invite death. Call my name is Zangetsu. Kurosaki Ichigo chanted it naturally. When he called Zangetsu, his eyes burst into a blue crescent. At this moment, his mind was peaceful, as if he had become one with Zanpakuto. Advertisement. Chapter 194 billion, you are not qualified to be named Edward. Advertisement. Partner news. Bankai Tensa Zangetsu. Putting Buddha as instinct, and letting Buddha as inner Zangetsu is driving him. Facing Zaraki Kenpachi's knife, he held Zangetsu tightly, pointed at Zaraki Kenpachi, and roared majestically. Immediately afterwards he was devoured by Zaraki Kenpachi's massive Reiatsu slash. It's useless. You called Bankai, but you want Bankai. Not even a flower popped out, what a fart you are. Seeing this scene, Zhang Chulin was stunned for a second, and then couldn't help but cursed. Of course it didn't work. Do you think that Bankai can be cast by just calling out his name? 757. Kurosaki Ichigo boy has great potential, but Shinigami's locks on him seem to be non-existent. But it does not mean that he can completely disobey Shinigami growth rules. He has to learn Bankai, at least to visualize Zanpakuto, and then surrender. At this time, if he knew Zanpakuto's full name, he would be able to Bankai. It's just that he hasn't even mastered Shikai's ability, let alone. Aizen Sosuke looked at Zhang Chulin like an idiot. Bang! A blue beam of light shot straight into the sky from the yellow Reiatsu giant blade. With the blue Reiatsu beam of light as the center, circles of storm-like ripples rippled in all directions. The black Reiatsu giant blade that devoured Kurosaki Ichigo was the first to bear the brunt, and was smashed to pieces by the shock wave-like ripples on the spot. When Zaraki Kenpachi scattered the Reiatsu giant blade, he was dressed in a black robe, paired with a pair of extremely mismatched straw sandals, and a slender black long force. Kurosaki Ichigo holding this equipment instantly caught everyone's eyes. Bankai. Advertisement. To have mastered Bankai with only one real name. Aizen Sosuke's eyes flashed with surprise. This was also the first time he had obvious mood swings after the 10,000 Worlds Pretend conference started. I see. It's not that he mastered Bankai, but Zanpakuto himself volunteered to help him. Rather than a chirping Bankai, Zanpakuto himself is in Bankai. Luo Hao raised his head and looked at Kurosaki Ichigo in midair. His eyes had turned into 3 Gugama Rinnegan. With the pupil power of these eyes, he saw more scenery that Aizen Sosuke, the Shinigami Fukuo, could not see. As expected, it's a coercion. Seeing this scene, Zhang Chulin breathed a sigh of relief on the spot. Saved. Who doesn't know that if you don't open it, it will be enough, and once you open it, it will be earth-shattering, and there is no humanity at all. Tensa Zagetsu is really Bankai just by shouting. Then shouting the last crescent sky, doesn't it directly enter the moonless state? There is a chirp dedicated to breaking Aizen Sosuke's fate. This wave is stable. UB***************, D, how dare you do this to me? After Bankai, Kurosaki Ichigo first pretended to be aggressive in midair, and then he looked down at Zhang Chulin condescendingly, his eyes bursting out with a murderous intent. Second brother, calm down. Your enemy is Zaraki Kenpachi, not me. I didn't catch your Rukia. What's more, I didn't do this to save dad, didn't I want you to master Bankai? If you want to become Bankai quickly, of course, you have to take a little bit of risk. Quote. Zhang Chulin quickly explained. Advertisement. No way, Shikai's Kurosaki Ichigo, he's like a chicken. But after Bankai's chatter, he can be slapped like a chicken. 0. Even GGU who has just mastered Bankai is no exception. Needless to say, just the fact that GGU can fly is already invincible. Daddy. Hearing this, Kurosaki Ichigo immediately looked at Whitebeard. Billion, you are not qualified to be named Edward. Edward is such a great surname, only he is qualified to use it at 3.0. Even the big Uzumaki spider who stabbed Whitebeard can ignore him, so how can he care about Kurosaki Ichigo? No way, he knew Whitebeard too well. The big brother Zhang Chulin is really cheating. But he remembered Zhang Chulin. Kurosaki Ichigo glanced at Zhang Chulin coldly. In the end, Whitebeard, for the sake of the enemy, didn't immediately stage a fight with the same room. Zhang Chulin simply ignored Kurosaki Ichigo's words. Phew, daddy is saved. Even if Whitebeard was dissatisfied with his actions afterward, for the sake of his father, Whitebeard would not let Kurosaki Ichigo kill him. After all, Whitebeard didn't cheat him like Zhang Chulin did. Instead, he stepped forward to help him block Zaraki Kenpachi when he was in danger. But he can't cheat. As for cleaning the portal, forget it. Anyway, he also called Whitebeard so many times, and what he did just now was to save Whitebeard. When he saw the multiple wounds on Whitebeard's body, he was moved with compassion. After Daddy Zaraki Kenpachi, helped Daddy clean up the house. In his opinion, Zhang Chulin's unshakable billion is not qualified to share a father with him. Advertisement. Chapter 195 Chick, although you are stupid, Laozi still loves you. Advertisement. Partner news. Father, I'll help you. After Kurosaki Ichigo gave Zhang Chulin a cool look, he immediately flew towards Whitebeard. Grumble, go away. Whitebeard, who had just been stabbed by Zaraki Kenpachi, immediately yelled at Kurosaki Ichigo who was flying toward him. Whitebeard is Whitebeard. I am in a dangerous situation, but I still don't forget to care for my new son, Yi Ggu. Father, I am no longer the Black Knight Yi Ggu who needs to be protected by your wings to survive. Now I. But Edward Yijigu. A chirp came to Whitebeard, and when he was talking, a familiar Shinigami BGM immediately started. Against the backdrop of the loudest sound system, Yijigu's tall figure, who was not as tall as Whitebeard, suddenly became extremely tall. I'll protect you this time. After a slight sideways glance at Whitebeard, 30 shot towards Zaraki Kenpachi like a black lightning bolt. A whisper. Whitebeard saw it, and immediately stretched out his hand to grab Gigi, and at the same time wanted to say something to him. It's just that his hand just stretched out, and he just said half of his words, and he rushed in front of Zaraki Kenpachi. This time I'm not afraid of you anymore. Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Zaraki Kenpachi, who had become more terrifying than before, without any fear in his heart. Because he is no longer the little Munchkin who couldn't even break Zaraki Kenpachi's skin just now. At this time, he is the man who unleashes Bankai. Crescent sky rushes. With a long howl, Kurosaki Ichigo held Tensa Zangetsu with both hands, and a bright blue light engulfed Zaraki Kenpachi's body in an instant. Advertisement. Absurd sports moments. Europress. This is Zangetsu's strongest and the only trick he taught me. To be defeated by this move, ah. After Kurosaki Ichigo saw Zaraki Kenpachi being swallowed by the crescent lock, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. He was very confident in his ability. It's just that he was only halfway through his pretension, when a big blood-red hand tore through the crescent moon, and punched him violently in the abdomen. In an instant, Kurosaki Ichigo, who was only half loaded in time, flew upside down like a cannonball 1,000 meters away with a loud noise, and directly hit Whitebeard's feet. Why? Kurosaki Ichigo, who was lying on the ground, asked with difficulty while spraying blood from his mouth. He was asking himself, Whitebeard, and Zhang Chulin. Didn't he master Bankai? Why is it still a second? Why can't even scratch Zaraki Kenpachi's skin? Stupid son. Although you are so stupid, I still love you so much. Whitebeard carefully picked up Kurosaki Ichigo. A son who stood up for himself, a son who pretended to be for himself, even though he was overturned immediately, he was quite moved. Can't you hang up a few more times, such as get a hollow and dance? Zhang Chulin stretched out his hand to cover his face. That's not what he meant. He knew very well how fierce Zaraki Kenpachi Bankai was after that. Especially now that Zaraki Kenpachi has been quietly manipulated by Aizen Sosuke, it is estimated that it will be more violent than before. He intends to let Kurosaki Ichigo Bankai, and finally continue to driving from Bankai to Hollow in one breath, and then to Niato Ichigo. Advertisement. That might give Zaraki Kenpachi an arm wrestling. But he didn't expect that Kurosaki Ichigo would copy Tensa Zagetsu and dare to match Bankai's Zaraki Kenpachi. The battle between the Shinigami is actually a contest between the Reiatsu. No matter how strong the ability is, if the gap between Reiatsu is too large, it will be vulnerable. With the difference in Reiatsu between Ichigo and Kenpachi, even if Kenpachi stands still and lets him attack, he can't break the defense. At this time, Aizen Sosuke also recovered from the surprise brought by Kurosaki Ichigo Bankai. Although Ichigo's Bankai made him a little surprised, but thinking of Ichigo's specialness, he calmly accepted it. Under his secret operation, Ichigo's growth rate is extremely fast, but after all, it is far inferior to Zaraki Kenpachi who has been secretly helped by him. 997. The gap is too big. Acetus shook his head. Although she didn't practice Reiatsu, she could tell the difference between Kurosaki Ichigo and Zaraki Kenpachi just from the pressure that Zaraki Kenpachi radiated all the time. Exactly what I expected. This blood is really hard to get. Luo Hao chuckled lightly. He knew that Whitebeard was probably going to get it. The Pacific War has long been messed up by Aizen Sosuke. Now Zaraki Kenpachi is a lot stronger. Looking at the entire Soul Society, not many can take him down. Even Kyoraku Shunsui can only compete with it. In addition to the Zero Team, the only ones who can steadily win Zaraki Kenpachi are Aizen Sosuke and Yamamoto Genryu Sai in the Gote 13th team. Of course, Ichimaru Jin, who is deeply hidden, may be able to defeat Zaraki Kenpachi, but to destroy Zaraki Kenpachi with a crushing gesture, unless Ichimaru Jin also masters the virtual power, it will also be impossible. Advertisement. Chapter 196 Live Streaming, Curse Seal. Proudly presented by Orochimaru. Advertisement. Lord Hokage, Whitebeard is about to roll over. Then don't you do it. Aizen Sosuke turned to Luo Hao who was beside him and asked. And you, this is your home field. Isn't this blood in your pocket? Luo Hao looked at Aizen Sosuke playfully. First blood is good, but it's just a good start. Getting the first blood is not necessarily the MVP of this conference, but not getting the first blood does not necessarily mean that you cannot become the MVP of this conference. What's more, it's still time for me to dance. I think Master Hokage must understand what I mean. Aizen Sosuke smiled. Everything he does is very purposeful. Even pretend is no exception. Although he will still pretend that he can't achieve his goal, but if it conflicts with the goal in his heart, then no matter how attractive the opportunity of this pretend is, he will reluctantly let it go. At this time, that's it. He just pretended to be dead, but he has a bigger plan in his heart than the original time and space to capture Hogyoku. Zaraki Kenpachi was nothing more than the bait he threw. If he wanted to dance at this time, he wouldn't have played dead, and he would have made the move long ago, before it was Whitebeard and Acetus' turn to snatch it. Then Zaraki Kenpachi I'll accept. Luo Hao said to Aizen Sosuke with a half smile. Please. Aizen Sosuke bowed and held out his hand like you can do whatever you want. No hurry. Facing Aizen Sosuke's invitation, Luo Hao shook his head. Advertisement. Oh, don't you think, Lord Hokage, that Whitebeard has a chance to come back? You should have noticed the streams of Reiatsu coming here from all directions. They are the 12 talkers of the 13th division of the court, and they are also the leaders of the 12 divisions. Once they come, you will be in trouble. At that time, except for you, every skirt friend can only retreat to their own world and watch the dance below. Even Mr. Hokage, if you don't leave, there may be a lot of trouble. Aizen Sosuke smiled meaningfully. What? Acedes, Zhang Chulin, Cheomung and the others changed their expressions immediately after hearing this. After seeing the strength of Zaraki Kenpachi, they no longer dare to underestimate the captain in the Shinigami world. Especially Zhang Chulin. Hearing what Aizen Sosuke said, he almost couldn't help opening the crossing passage, leaving Whitebeard behind, and return to the world under one person by himself. It's not that he doesn't want father-son affection. It is really his meager strength to stay here as to die. Might as well leave early so Whitebeard can protect him without distractions. Captain Aizen, you don't think you're the only one who pretended so many things for this tournament, do you? For the many Shinigami captains and vice-captains rushing from all directions, Luo Hao was not surprised at all. His perception is even above Aizen Sosuke. He had already sensed it as early as the moment the 12 speakers of the 13th division of the court set off. Oh, you mean Whitebeard has a chance to come back? Aizen Sosuke showed some interest on his face. After all, he is a member of the Wanjie chat skirt, and he is also the third brother in the chat, and Whitebeard is also so close to the administrator Luo Hao. If you want to say that the opponent didn't point the whole cards, then he still doesn't believe it. Advertisement. I dare not say a turnaround. But there are still one or two whole cards. As if to confirm Luo Hao's words. After picking up Kurosaki Ichigo, Whitebeard suddenly dropped his hands and sent Kurosaki Ichigo directly to Zhang Chulin. Billion, keep an eye on your brother. If you dare to slip away by yourself, even if Laozi catches up to your world, he will chop you up. After Whitebeard gave Zhang Chulin a warning, he turned his head and looked at Zaraki Kenpachi, who had red eyes and was staring at him like a beast. Seeing Whitebeard's body changes, Aizen Sosuke immediately thought of Whitebeard's true several thousand hands during Summit War. As soon as the words fell, dark lines began to appear on his burly and majestic body. Originally, I wanted to have fun pretending to be aggressive with you. Is this a curse mark? Unexpectedly, what you get in exchange is your sword. Although it is only equivalent to the weakened version of Sage Mode, it can also use the magic chakra. This is an honorary offering of Orochimaru, grab it now. The moment Whitebeard revealed the curse seal, Luo Hao's Hokage live broadcast room opened again. Oh, Wang Wang's Shen. Zhang Chulin's pupils shrank, and then suddenly glared at Luo Ku. Except for him, no one in the skirt chat can have it. Even he himself has been quietly studying this power recently. This specialty of the Hokage world is obviously produced by Luo Hao. This feeling is exactly the same as when Whitebeard pretended in Summit War. Curse seal, which allows the user to enter the spell seal mode. It's just that it looks more evil and darker than that time. Anyway, Laozi has a showdown. The feeling of Sage Mode, he will never forget. Advertisement. Chapter 197 Buyer Show, Curse Seal Whitebeard. Advertisement. When I went to One Piece World, the Hokage live broadcast room opened by Luo Hao got off to a good start, and the daily turnover was frighteningly high. It made a lot of skirt friends extremely jealous, and they started live streaming one after another. This time he came to the world of Shinigami to participate in the 10,000 Worlds Pretend Conference, so he will naturally not be in the Hokage live broadcast room that made him a hit. Only this time it's a little different. He no longer needs to rely on the Hokage live broadcast room to bring the goods, but directly brings the goods on the spot. To inspect the goods, to buy goods, all on-site transactions. No kidding. Don't worry about him cheating like those unscrupulous anchors. Any quality problems, any dissatisfaction can be solved on the spot. What's more, this time, he's not only bringing goods to the people who are chatting with him, but also the local residents of the Shinigami world. Curse seal. Can this be sold? Originally, Aizen Sosuke was attracted by the whole card revealed by Whitebeard, the Curse Seal 827 model. Now after hearing Luo Hao say that curse seals can be bought and sold, he immediately regained his energy. Not only him, Acedes, Cheomung, even Zhang Chulin, and even Kurosaki Ichigo all surrounded him. This time, 666's Whitebeard, who just had a showdown and revealed the spell seal mode, and was about to attract a wave of skirt friends, was instantly cold. Damn Luo boy, Laozi has a showdown, he actually directly took away his popularity. Whitebeard gritted his teeth angrily when he saw that no one was paying attention to him. Advertisement. He didn't expect the showdown on his side to reveal the spell seal pattern, but no one paid attention, and instead became Luo Hao's buyer's show. Directly introduced the benefits of the curse seal product to every skirt friend and his son Kurosaki Ichigo in an all-round way. What made Whitebeard even more furious was that even his opponent in front of him, Zaraki Kenpachi, actually looked towards Luo Hao, as if he was also attracted by Luo Hao's curse seal and wanted to buy a copy. Damn it, it doesn't matter if others watch it, you lost your mind after Zaraki Kenpachi Bankai, why are you still joining in the fun? Whitebeard saw that Zaraki Kenpachi's attention was not on him at all, not only made him smoke from anger, but also felt a wave of depression. Sure enough, in terms of popularity, I still can't compare with Luo Hao. No, even Zaraki Kenpachi, who had lost his mind, paid attention to him as soon as the opponent made a shot. Of course you can. This curse seal is divided into two modes, heaven and earth. The curse seal of the sky can make people grow wings to fly, and the curse seal of the earth can grow a tail. No matter what kind of seal, once used, it can increase the number of chakra rapidly, and enter the spell seal similar to Sage Transformation. You can use the weakened version of chakra, which is the fairy spell chakra. For those who want to practice Sage Mode, but have no way to start, and can't afford the risk of failure to practice Sage Mode, the spell seal mode is undoubtedly the best choice. Luo Hao opened his right hand while talking. Two extremely cold and evil auras emerged from his palm. Obviously it is the seal of heaven and earth Doff. All by. Just as Luo Hao finished speaking, Zhang Chulin spoke first. No way. Even the ordinary battle of the Pacific has become so horrible. This made the weakest billion feel extremely uneasy. Advertisement. Having bought goods from the Hokage live broadcast room, he already has great trust in Luo Hao's production. Although it is said that Luo Hao is very good at cheating people, the quality of the things he produces is really excellent. It seems that you haven't repaid the 8 magic skills you owed me before. Luo Hao stared at Zhang Chulin and said unhappily. Boss Luo, you can't say that. Although I didn't find one of the 8 wonders for you in the end, I also didn't get the swordsmanship and observation haki of Pirate World from you. The most we can do is fail to make a deal. The small reputation issue should still be unaffected, right? Zhang Chulin said with a smile. Back in One Piece World, when Luo Hao brought the goods live, he placed an order. Exchange One Piece World swordsmanship and observation haki with one of Shuangquan Shou, Juling Dispatch General, Liuku Immortal Thief, and Divine Machine 4th Gate. But in the end, I don't know whether Zhang Chulin really didn't get the 4th Gate skill, or he thought it was not worth the deal. In the end, he didn't take out any of the 4th Gate skills in exchange for swordsmanship and knowledge. What do you want in exchange? Luo Hao didn't care about the reason why Zhang Chulin gave up in the end, nor did he care about the other party's little thought. In fact, since he obtained administrator privileges, he can forcefully travel to the world under one person. With his strength, as long as he is willing to spend time, he can get anything. It's just that he didn't do it, and there was no need to do it. It is good to forcefully go to another world to harvest, but it is undoubtedly better to drive the development of every friend in their world, and then harvest all the time. This kind of long-term sustainable harvest is undoubtedly better. In Luo Hao's view, this is what he should do as an administrator. After all, forced harvesting is only temporary, and unlimited harvesting is permanent. Advertisement. Chapter 198 The Arrogant Billion. I want the cursed seals of heaven and earth. Advertisement. In order to gain a momentary harvest, he made himself hate ghosts in the skirt chat, and each skirt friend united to attack. That was not what Luo Hao wanted. As for whether other skirt friends will surpass him and threaten him as an administrator, he has no similar thoughts at all. As a person who has no cheats, only becomes fourth Hokage and marries Tsunade by himself, he has no confidence at all. How can he become the strongest in the ninja world without cheating? Heaven and earth, curse seal, I want it all. Zhang Chulin said arrogantly, then took out a scroll from his pocket, and unlocked the seal. With a bang, along with a burst of white mist, Rixia's body appeared in front of everyone. This is. As soon as Luo Hao opened his eyes, the three-hook jade Rinnegan opened immediately. In front of his eyes, all the secrets of the corpse that Zhang Chulin took out were fully exposed. The corpse of a congenital alien. This is a congenital person who endangers the society that I hunted and killed by chance when I was working in everywhere. Zhang Chulin, who has never shown the mountains and dews, and shows the demeanor of billion everywhere, is also a person who has expected. After all, his usual low-key, cowardice, and shamelessness are just his disguise. After becoming a member of Wanjie Chat Skirt, although it is still an indisputable fact that his strength is at the bottom, but no one knows how many goods he has in his hand. After all, among the many worlds in Wanjie Chat Skirt, the world under one person, which seems to be the weakest, is very mysterious. There are some powers, some secrets even beyond the Hokage Shinigami. The miraculous skills produced in it are placed in other worlds, and they can often defeat the strong with the weak, or even have the effect of heaven-defying level. Luo Hao is well aware of this. For the emphasis on the world under one person, he is even above Whitebeard's pirate world, and Aizen's Shinigami world. There is no other, because under one person there are not only the 8 miraculous skills, but also the mysterious and unpredictable Feng Baobao, as well as the legendary first-level immortal figure who ascended to immortality. The ghost knows how fishy these god-level figures like Lu Zhu and Zhang Sanli who have never appeared in the scene are. Advertisement. When this innate alien was killed by me, he was immediately sealed. The corpse is no different from the one just before death. I think an innate and extraordinary secret should be worth the seal of heaven and earth, right? Zhang Chulin asked back. It's well hidden. Luo Hao looked at Zhang Chulin with a half smile, making his heart jump. My little coffers are only so small. Even if you have a big family and a great career like Boss Luo, just throwing out a cursed seal will make us feel like a treasure. You know it too. The world I live in is a modern society, and such things as beating and killing are expressly prohibited. If I hadn't found an organization, even if this innate alien was so vicious that shooting him 100 times would not be enough, I wouldn't dare to kill this innate alien casually. Zhang Chulin smiled modestly. What a joke. He still understands the truth that money is not revealed. At the same time, he will not leave the impression that he is very good and has a lot of cards in the skirt chat. This will be very unfavorable to his future development in the skirt chat, whether it is pretend or not. Being low-key, being looked down upon by everyone, even a super beast can call itself a super master in front of him, maybe this is what he wants most. Heaven and earth curse seal, right. Okay, I'll give it to you. But both Uchiha Sasuke and Kimimaro can only bear one spell. You are so greedy, you want two at the same time, if you can't bear it, don't blame me. Advertisement. 0 for flowers. Luo Hao stared at Zhang Chulin's dantian with his eyes wide open. With the pupil technique, he saw that apart from chakra and chi entrenched in Zhang Chulin's dantian, there was also a strange power hidden. This force seems to have the consciousness of life, extremely mysterious and profound. This should be the chi baby cultivated by Zhang Chulin with the source of chi body, right? This thing should be the reason why you dare to use the curse seal of heaven and earth at the same time. A look of anticipation flashed in Luo Hao's eyes. 0. He also has the origin of the chi body, and even he has practiced it. However, the origin of the chi body he cultivated was different from Zhang Chulin's. After harvesting the power systems from multiple worlds, he did not practice step by step the source of chi body, but quietly started various researches and experiments on chi. It can be said that after the energy source flow fell into his hands, he had already trained it beyond recognition. Although he still had the original ability, he had added many things that he didn't have before, and he had gradually lost the original taste of the energy source flow. Up. He really wanted to see what new tricks Zhang Chulin, who practiced chakra and chi at the same time, had developed. What surprises will Zhang Chulin, who has taken a different cultivation path from him, bring him? Fine. I am very aware of the side effects of the seal of heaven and earth. Since I dare to ask for it, of course I am mentally prepared. Not to mention that the young master won't die so easily. Even if he dies, I won't blame you, Boss Luo. Zhang Chulin took a deep breath, with an expression of Boss Luo, you don't care. Puff. Seeing this, Luo Hao was not polite, and directly reached out and tapped Zhang Chulin's chest and neck respectively. Advertisement. Chapter 199 The Second Buyer Show, Billion Seal of Heaven and Earth. Advertisement. The curse of the earth was planted on Zhang Shulin's chest. The curse of heaven was imprinted on his neck. In an instant, 3 black comma-like curse marks appeared on his neck, and 3 slender spiral curse marks appeared on his chest. What? The moment the curse was imprinted into the body, Zhang Shulin immediately felt the chakra in the body riot. The power of the 2 spells and chakra instantly merged into one. A dark and evil aura swept across his whole body in an instant, corroding his body and even his soul. It's just that at this moment, the chi baby in his body moved. Under the gaze of Luo Hao's Sangoyu Rinnegan, Zhang Shulin's consciousness suddenly fell asleep, and, 103, Jiang took the initiative to control his body. Originally uncontrollable, the riots in his body caused by the 2 major curse seals unexpectedly calmed down after Qiang took over his body. As expected of the end of the technique, it is indeed Shen Wushuang. Chakra combined with Qi. It can only dissolve the Qi, even the curse seal can be resolved. Interesting. One body with 2 lives, jointly controlling Jia and Chakra. Billion, you are hiding really deep enough. You won't be able to test your depth without smashing the world's curse seal. A smile flashed across Luo Hao's eyes. Whether it is Zhang Shulin or the world under one person he lives in, he attaches great importance to it. Even surpassed Whitebeard, Acedes et al. And Zhang Shulin's current performance undoubtedly proves that his view is correct. Perhaps in terms of strength, Billion is still the bottom of the skirt chat. But his potential is definitely not inferior to Aizen Sosuke, and even surpasses it in many places. Advertisement. Perhaps at present, whether it is Billion or the world's power system under one person, the destructive power displayed by them is far less than that of Hokage, Shinigami, and pirates, but that is only the present. Even he doesn't know how strong the old celestial masters in it, as well as those who have become immortals, are so strong. He also doesn't know if there is a more advanced magic technique hidden above the 8 miraculous skills. I'm afraid it will be exposed this time. But no way. The seal of heaven and earth is too important to me. Even if Boss Luo sees the truth, he must take down the heaven and earth curse seal. After Qiang took control of Zhang Shulin's body and helped him control the curse seal of heaven and earth, Zhang Shulin's consciousness began to wake up. And the performance of Qiang is also very docile. As soon as Zhang Shulin woke up, he returned control of his body to the other party. After waking up, Zhang Shulin looked worried on the surface, but actually secretly took a look at Luo Hao. Really, the moment he aimed at Luo Hao, he also happened to meet Luo's pair of 3 Hokage Rinnegan. Just a collision of eyes made his heart sink to the bottom. Those eyes are really troublesome. As expected of Boss Luo, in the world of Hokage, a self-made traveler without the blood of 6 paths. I am afraid that the secret of my body has been thoroughly understood by him. Zhang Shulin sighed secretly, but did not regret it. From the moment he took the seal of the heaven and earth curse, he was mentally prepared for this. It's just that he still held a little fluke in his heart before, hoping that Luo Hao wouldn't see it through completely. Just looking at Luo Hao, he knew that his luck was in vain. Good. Just when Zhang Shulin's mind was fluctuating, Luo Hao suddenly reached out and patted him on the shoulder. Advertisement. This exclamation, this movement made all the hairs on his body stand on end. Luckily, the ultimate he was relieved that Luo Hao just praised him and stopped paying attention to him. 0. Sure enough, he is a man 100 times more terrifying than Aizen. Hey, since I, Zhang Shulin, are in the skirt chat, why should there be Boss Luo? Zhang Shulin glanced at Luo Hao with lingering fear, whose eyes had already shifted to other people. The few seconds just now gave him a feeling of swimming in the cycle of life and death. You have also seen the situation of Chu Lan. He is now what he looks like after the successful cultivation of the heaven and earth seal. It is normal when not in use. Only by using the power of the curse seal can one enter the state of the curse seal. As Gao said, he reached out and pulled Zhang Shulin's oracle bone. Under the shocked eyes of Zhang Shulin, Aizen Sosuke and others, he actually pulled out a pair of dark black wings that looked like duck paws from Zhang Shulin's back. How so? I have clearly cut off the connection between the heaven and earth curse seal and Boss Luo with Qiang. Now the curse seal of heaven and earth has been absolutely controlled by me, and it has become my unique power. Why can he directly put me in the 1.8-day curse seal state without my consent, or even without my resistance? Zhang Shulin glanced at the wings behind her, and the more she thought about it, the more frightened she became. Luo Hao's move to force him to go to the buyer's show made him terrified. Everyone, this is the state of the curse seal of the sky. I think you all sense it. Chakra in Billion's body has undergone tremendous changes. This is the effect of cursing. That is, a weakened version of Shanju chakra. After Luo Hao finished speaking, before Zhang Shulin could calm down from the horror of suddenly entering the curse seal of the sky, he kicked his A again. Advertisement. Chapter 200 Chirp. How about selling Zangetsu? Advertisement. Puff. With this kick, Zhang Shulin's pants suddenly burst into a hole. But it wasn't that Luo Hao kicked it, but a dark black tail grew from the end of his spine, which directly smashed the pants. Isn't it said that voluntarily posting a buyer's show can get the benefits of the merchant? How can you, Boss Luo, force people to upload buyer's shows like this? Zhang Shulin grabbed the wings with one hand and covered her tail with the other, staring at Luo Hao resentfully. She looked like an angry little daughter-in-law. I'm not doing this for the convenience of allowing everyone to experience the heaven and earth curse seal from all aspects of vision and perception. Wronged. At most, there will be a good brother who will sell it, and I will give you a preferential price. As soon as Luo Hao's words fell, Zhang Chulin, who had been beaten to death just now, suddenly spread out his duck paws like dark wings. 10 thick tails frantically slapped Ding Kang's floor. Come, this is the power of the address spell. This tail, although it is a bit ugly, but if combined with the attacking abilities of the above limbs, such as this move, it can exert a miraculous effect. Zhang Chulin made the seal while introducing the beauty of the tail of the cursed seal of the earth. As the seal was completed, there was a clear and crisp cry of thousands of birds singing in the air immediately. Aizen Sosuke and others looked around and found that a blade-like light had emerged from Zhang Chulin's tail. Really, to get Billion to do something, nothing is more useful than giving some favors. It just said to give a preferential price, but didn't say how much the discount is. Just now Bai Lian was acting like she was going to be beaten to death, not to mention how active she is now. Good stuff. Aizen Sosuke's eyes lit up immediately. Unlike a Seeds, who pays attention to strength and appearance, he is a man who can accept even the uglier forms brought about by Hogyoku's evolution process. Advertisement. And in order to match this ugly evolution scene, he also uttered a very compelling line. Any kind of item is ugly in the process of evolution. He can even accept the ugly posture of Hogyoku's evolution, let alone the state of the cursed seal of the earth. Chu Lan, hurry up. Show your wings and see what it does. Among the people watching the live broadcast, if you want to talk about fanaticism, the one who cares most is Aizen Sosuke. Seeds has given up the power of this cursed seal after seeing Zhang Chulin appearing in 2 forms of the cursed seal of heaven and earth. She admits that this power is indeed powerful, second only to Sage Mode. But too ugly. And she knows very well that every time Luo Hao's Hokage live studio opens, there must be more than one thing to return, so she is not in such a hurry to take pictures of the seal of heaven and earth. First of all, the biggest function of the wings of the cursed seal of the sky is to fly. Secondly, it can also be used as a weapon, such as a shield. While Zhang Chulin spoke, he had already completed the seal. I saw his pair of duck paw-like wings suddenly folded up, just enough to completely wrap his body. At the same time, streaks of blue thunderbolts visible to the naked eye began to collapse, rushing towards all parts of the body like electric snakes. Wings combined with this move Chidori style, the defense is still good. Zhang Chulin is indeed a genius. I started to practice chakra from scratch, and practiced the lightning style's nature transformation in the moment of time without anyone teaching. Both Chidori and Chidori Ryu are fully mastered. In terms of talent, even Uchiha Sasuke is far behind him. Besides that, the most attractive thing about the seal of heaven and earth is the increase in one's own strength. Just like Jinchuriki's tailed beast, it increases all aspects of chakra and body. And there is the cursed seal chakra, which is second only to Shanju chakra. Zhang Chulin spread out his right hand, and a jet black is ink condensed into shape. Advertisement. This is the same trick as before. The same Chidori formula, but because it is the reason of the cursed seal chakra, it condenses a different Chidori. The same is true for other ninjutsu, which can greatly multiply the power of jutsu. All in all, this heaven and earth cursed seal product, my personal suggestion is worth buying. With Billion, the buyer, he showed off a wave of seals of heaven and earth in such an all-round way. Everyone present had a comprehensive understanding of the heaven and earth cursed seal. 687. I want. Just when everyone thought that Aizen Sosuke must be the second person to take the seal of the heaven and earth curse, Edward Yijigu said loudly before everyone else. You want. Luo Hao looked at Yijigu. Can't I place an order? He asked back with a babble. Sure, but I don't support currency transactions here, only barter. What can you take out to take a picture of the seal of heaven and earth? Luo Hao's words were stopped for a while. Now he has only one zanjetsu in his body. This. Kurosaki Ichigo rummaged through his body and found that his net worth was only 2. First Zanpakudo Zanjetsu. The second deadly costume. I tried Zanjetsu's Bankai too, it didn't seem to work. How about getting Zanjetsu instead? Thinking that after Bankai, he couldn't even take a punch from Zaraki Kenpachi, Rijigu even had the idea of selling Zagetsu. Advertisement. Chapter 201 Curse Seal Yiggu and Curse Seal Void. Advertisement. Such. You have void in your body, and you also have the power of Shinigami. It is worth researching. I want a sample of your psychic power and flesh and blood. What do you think? Luo Hao said. Can. But don't cut too hard, I'm going to save this body to save Rukia. Quote. Upon hearing this, Kurosaki Ichigo agreed without thinking. Isn't it just a knife? One day after he became a Shinigami, he never took a knife. If he could reap good things like the seal of heaven and earth with one blow, then he would rather take one more blow every day. Don't worry, it's just a little bit. For the sake of your cooperation, I will not only help you plant the heaven and earth curse seal, but also guarantee that you will succeed in planting it. I will never let the curse seal corrupt your mind. Luo Hao glanced at Kurosaki Ichigo with interest. His glance was not just looking at Yijigu, but also looking at Shushiro and the so-called Uncle Zagetsu. He was a little curious about Yijigu, who already had a lot of power in his body and a lot of blood, and got the curse mark again. After possessing chakra, what will it look like in the end? In most worlds, the purer the blood, the stronger the strength and the greater the potential. But the world of Shinigami is different. In other words, the protagonist in the Shinigami world is different. This guy is just a hot pot, any kind of meat or vegetables can be put in it, and all can be cooked and eaten. With so many bloodlines mixed together, not only did they not conflict with each other, but he seemed to have the ability to purify and fuse bloodlines. The more bloodlines in his body, the stronger he became. He really wanted to see if Yijigu would forcefully change the spell seal mode to sage mode after the curse seal of heaven and earth fell into Yijigu's hands. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I heard other people call Luo Hao just now, and I followed suit. Advertisement. After all, it's good words, and it doesn't cost money. This is what you deserve. Luo Hao chuckled, then reached out and touched Yijigu's neck and chest. In an instant, two completely different curse seal patterns instantly enveloped Yijigu's whole body. It's just a simple curse seal that corrodes the body, and the corrosion of the spirit is so great, let alone the curse seal of heaven and earth. After all, not everyone has a chi baby in their body like Billion. Yijigu obviously doesn't have the ability to directly subdue the curse seal of heaven and earth. Master Hokage, if you don't make a move again, I can't bear it anymore. Kurosaki Ichigo was half kneeling on the ground with a painful look on his face. Seeing this, Luo Hao didn't speak, but his eyes turned into a 3-gauge jade Rinnegan. As soon as he opened his eyes, the scene in front of him had changed drastically. He went straight into the mind of Kurosaki Ichigo. When he wanted to go deeper, the so-called Uncle Zagetsu immediately appeared in front of him and stopped him. Aren't you going to save him? Luo Hao looked at Zangetsu playfully. Why did you leave such an evil thing in Yijigu? It is enough for him to have me. There is no need for such power. Uncle Zagetsu said in a deep voice. Of course you don't need it. Right now, you still wish you could die. Luo Hao's words made Uncle Zagetsu's pupils shrink. Nonsense. I'm a babbling Zanpakuto. Well, I'm not here this time to find you, but to find him. Credib. Luo Hao glanced at Zangetsu faintly, and Wang Yang's unfathomable pupil power burst out suddenly. Advertisement. Uncle Zagetsu disappeared in an instant. Instead, it was a Yijigu who was almost pale all over. This long-winded fellow has finally disappeared. It's a great feeling to have no one to suppress. As soon as Shubai came out, he raised his head to the sky and roared. I have already suppressed Juhabok's strength. Without his suppression, you should be able to grow rapidly. After a while, even if he gets out of trouble, he won't be able to suppress the grown-up you. Luo Hao looked at the blank white in front of his eyes, or the real Zagetsu. Uncle Zagetsu just now is just the power of Quincy inside Kurosaki Ichigo. This power is good, it is a weakened version of Sage Mode, and it can also be said to be the foundation. This level of strength is far beyond his imagination. The real Zanpakuto is the so-called Zubai who has been trying to snatch Yijigu's body in front of him. How you want to raise him is up to you. Just one look suppressed the history of the Quincy master that had been suppressing his growth since his birth. This also made Shubai even more confused about Luo Hao's thoughts. I will return this jiggle to you. Zubai, who has always been rebellious and extremely arrogant, was not to mention polite when facing Luo Hao, but he didn't dare to have the slightest chance to stab Luo Hao. Well, the power of the curse seal has quieted down. Enter a Shinigami's most important spiritual world as soon as you open your eyes. Didn't I just say that? After Luo Hao finished speaking, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the stalk towards the void. The most important thing, no good, is that he feels some malice from Luo Hao. Why are you helping me? For the sake of Yijigu's good attitude, give him a reward. On the contrary, he also vaguely felt that Luo Hao actually wanted to see Yijigu, and that he became stronger. Anyway, you are his Zanpakuto, and I am not his Zanpakuto. If you master it, you may have a chance to practice Sage Mode. Advertisement. Chapter 202 Cheomung's Ambition, planting a heaven and earth curse seal for the divine beast. Advertisement. What did you do to me? Zubai's face tightened. Intuition told him that Luo Hao took something from him. Don't be nervous, I just took some of your power away. Soon you will recover, and with the curse seal, the little power you lose now is nothing at all. Quote. Luo Hao points his fingers. The patterns of the two curse seals appeared out of nowhere in Yijigu's spiritual world, and then submerged into Zubai's body. Obviously, he not only planted the curse mark on Yijigu, but even Shubai planted the world curse mark again. Yijigu in the curse print mode, and Bai in the stamp print mode. I don't know how this interesting combination of you will evolve into in the end. Don't forget I'm disappointed. Quote. After Luo Hao glanced at Shubai who was half kneeling on the ground, his body flashed and he left Yijigu's spiritual world. Who the hell is this guy? Scarier than that guy with glasses named Aizen standing there. After quite a while, Zubai got used to the extra heaven and earth curse seal in his body before he stood up again. It's just that when he looked in the direction Luo Hao left, his unruly eyes were full of palpitations. Hey, how do you feel? In Seraiti, Zhang Shulin, who had been fighting with Yijigu just now, immediately seized the opportunity, and helped Yijigu up like a good brother. Fine. Yijigu glanced at Zhang Shulin, although he was unhappy with him, but he still didn't shake off his hand in the end. After all, he is the son of a father. Now everyone is rolling in this crisis-ridden soul society. Advertisement. Keeping warm is the key. At least before rescuing Rukia, he recognized it. When Rukia is rescued, he must have raised a knife and ruthlessly slaughtered this seemingly loyal brother in front of him. You have also seen and understood the effect of the heaven and earth seal. Now who else is going to take pictures? Luo Hao picked up Zangetsu, slashed Kurosaki Ichigo casually, and sealed his flesh and blood tissue. Your Excellency Hokage, Give me, Daig, 10 copies. But you don't need to plant it on me, can you seal it for me and let me study it? What a cautious person Aizen Sosuke is. Although the products produced by Luo Hao are reputable and guaranteed in quality, he dare not let Luo Hao tamper with him. Luo Hao took out a scroll, he didn't even need to tie the seal, he just clicked on the center of the scroll, and the seal of the land curse was sealed by him. As long as the seal is released, the curse seal will be released. After finishing speaking, he didn't ask Aizen Sosuke what he used to take the seal of heaven and earth, and handed the scroll to Aizen Sosuke. The complete corpse of an Ejuka's class Manos Grande. Aizen Sosuke deserves to be the one with the goods. Although it is not like Luo Hao who has created a Hokage live broadcast room that spans several worlds, nor has he expanded his business to pirates, elves, and Shinigami worlds, but as the king of Shinigami, he will also an inventor, he is still very promising. Anything that can be taken out casually is enough to make people crave for it. Make a deal. Luo Hao glanced casually, and the body of the Ejuka's level Manos Grande in front of him disappeared immediately. The ability of space is getting more and more terrifying. It's because of those eyes. The fruit of the sacred tree is really an enviable treasure. No wonder even a man like you specially made a sacred tree. Quote. Advertisement. Seeing this, Aizen Sosuke's eyes flickered under the lens. For the administrator, Luo Hao's ability, he has always been on the record. Even every time Luo Hao is observed to show a new ability, his record will be refreshed accordingly. In the previous live broadcast of the destruction of Cloud Shinobi Village, Luo Hao even produced the fruit of the sacred tree. Naturally, Aizen Sosuke would not fail to pay attention to such a big movement. In order to understand the origin of the divine tree and its fruits, he even spent all his money on Bai Lian, in exchange for a body of information about the divine tree. I have that too. As a professional licking dog, Cheomung has a very high consciousness. If every divine beast, even an elf, can master the seal of heaven and earth. Don't you already have fairy beast mode? As the leader of Little Elf World Akatsuki, most of the time what he thinks of is not himself, but other subordinates. For example, the fairy beast mode he specially tailored for Mewtwo. Is it enough to buy the seal of heaven and earth? Never relying on his status as a dog licker to get free benefits from Luo Hao. On the other hand, getting good things from Luo Hao comes at a cost. Master Hokage, these are the 3 holy beasts, Suicune, Raiko and Entei. Cheomung took out 3 Cheomung balls, and Zhang Chulin, who was watching aside, was full of envy and jealousy. I have to say that Cheomung is indeed very intelligent. The ones that were taken out casually were the elves at the level of divine beasts. He really doubted whether Cheomung had wiped out all the divine beasts and super divine beasts in the world of elves recently. I have it, but the beast beside me doesn't have it yet. On weekdays, he leaked a lot of things from his fingers to Cheomung. Then no matter how many Uranus and champion trainers there are in the Elf League, they can still beat them. As their leader, I promised to lead the elves to a position on par with trainers. Luo Hao asked. For the chief licking dog beside him, he still made a lot of trouble for him. Like this time. Advertisement. Chapter 203 Sage Mode Experience Card. Advertisement. Take it. Luo Hao sealed the heaven and earth curse seal in the scroll, and then threw it to Cheomung. I do not want it. If you have Sage Mode for sale, I might consider it. Aceed's words made Aizen Sosuke and others look bright, and then looked at Luo Hao. Although the curse mode is good, it is a weakened version of Sage Mode after all, and there are various auxiliary functions. Even if they are confident that they can eliminate the side effects of the curse mark, they are not as perfect and powerful as Sage Mode after all. After seeing Mewtwo's Immortal Beast Mode, even Aizen Sosuke, the tyrant, is quite envious of Sage Mode. Yes, Boss Luo, this time when your live broadcast room opens, you won't just sell a seal of heaven and earth, will you? When will Sage Mode be available for purchase? Zhang Chulin immediately threw Yijigu aside, and then ran over to look at Luo Hao helplessly. Not to mention that he wanted the power of Sage Mode very much, just because he is now in a dangerous Shinigami world where even Whitebeard is about to overturn at any time, he can't wait to arm himself from toes to teeth. What about Sage Mode? Sorry, it's temporarily unavailable for sale. Facing the longing eyes of all the skirt friends, Luo Hao shook his head. What a joke. Sage Mode is one of the top powers in the Hokage world. How could it be sold casually? Even if he is willing, there are not many members in the skirt chat who have the capital to take pictures. Even if there is, it may not be what he wants. But there is a Sage Mode experience card. Just when Aizen Sosuke and others were secretly disappointed, Luo Hao changed the subject and said something that surprised them. Sage Mode experience card. Is it something like that 6 Paths double Kamui experience card that Obito gave Kakashi posthumously? Zhang Chulin instantly understood what Luo Hao meant. Advertisement. Good. What about permanent Sage Mode? Currently unavailable for sale. After all, neither I nor my teacher have mastered the technology to make people master Sage Mode out of thin air. Since there is no finished product, of course it cannot be sold. However, there is a 5-minute Sage Mode experience card, but the number is limited. Before Luo Hao finished speaking, Aizen Sosuke started singing. Bakudo's 61 6-branch light prison. Pieces of light exuding powerful Reiatsu appeared out of thin air. In an instant, Aceeds, Cheomung, Zhang Chulin, Kurosaki Ichigo and others were all bound. Moreover, it is not only their bodies that are bound, but also their mouths. Sorry, everyone, you all heard that too. Mr. Hokage said just now that the quantity is limited. Since the quantity is limited, it is likely that it is not enough for us to share. In desperation, Lan, had no choice but to make a bad move. Please forgive me a lot. After Aizen Sosuke tied up everyone except Luo Hao with gestures, he said slowly and apologetically. Damn Aizen. But what responded to him was the resentful gazes of Zhang Chulin and others. They didn't expect that Aizen Sosuke would use such indecent means to snatch the Sage Mode experience card. Master Hokage, you see that they don't speak, they should have given up the bidding for the Sage Mode experience card. Then I had no choice but to take pictures of them all. Make an offer. Ignoring the fire-breathing gazes of Zhang Chulin, Asides and others, Aizen Sosuke said to Luo Hao arrogantly. Ask for flowers. Advertisement. He's ready to bleed for Sage Mode. Although it is just a Sage Mode experience card. But with the experience card and feeling the power of Sage Mode, Aizen has the confidence to reverse the cultivation method of Sage Mode, and finally master this top power in the Hokage world. Are you sure you want to take a picture? Luo Hao looked at Aizen Sosuke strangely. Of course. Isn't that right? Aizen Sosuke suddenly became alert. There's nothing wrong with that. These 3 Sage Mode experience cards are from the Sage Mode of the 3 holy places in the ninja world. Allows people to temporarily enter Sage Mode. But after all, it is an experience card, and it does not belong to your own power. Just like the person who transplanted Sharingan, how much power can be exerted in the end depends on the user. After all, the magic chakra is not so easy to control. Luo Hao explained. That's all right. Make an offer, Lord Hokage. I want it all from someone. Aizen Sosuke heard that these 3 experience cards actually came from the 3 holy places, that is, once they are photographed, he can experience 3 different Sage Modes at the same time, so he is even more determined to get these 3 Sage Mode experience cards. With all due respect, Captain Aizen. If I remember correctly, you owed me a Hitsugaya Toshiro or a Byakuya Kuchiki Zanpakuto before, and this debt has not been settled yet. Luo Hao didn't let go immediately, but said quietly. There is no delay and no arrears. Don't worry, Master Hokage. Before the end of tomorrow, I must settle the account. Aizen Sosuke, who was originally full of arrogance, suddenly froze and died. Advertisement. Chapter 204 Ichimaru Jin, Can Forced Silence Kill Captain Aizen? Advertisement. Zhang Chulin and others on the side found out that Aizen Sosuke, who was still a local tyrant just now, had not paid back his debts, and immediately cast contemptuous and disdainful glances at him. Buy all 3 Sage Mode cards. Even at the expense of using the horizontal hand to control them. How arrogant did they think it was? That's it. That's it. Don't pretend to be rich if you still owe the administrator a bill. Whether you are in arrears or not, pay it off before the end of tomorrow, that's what you said. If you don't return it after the deadline, you will be banned for a month. Luo Hao's words made Aizen Sosuke breathe a sigh of relief. How cruel is this? 680. To be banned for a month. At the beginning, he was only silenced for 10 minutes, and it felt like a second seemed like a year. How can he pretend if he is banned for a month? No problem. Aizen Sosuke swallowed hard. At this point, he has already decided. Even if he changes the plan immediately, he will kill one of Hitsugaya Toshiro and Byakuya Kuchiki in advance. Aizen he wants to choose between Hitsugaya and Byakuya Kuchiki to kill. Ichimaru Jin on the side didn't change at all on the surface, but when he heard Aizen Sosuke's words, there was still a wave of turmoil in his heart. Hitsugaya Toshiro is okay. He's just a civilian genius, kill him. Insufficient. But Byakuya Kuchiki is different. Although the strength of this product is not good, but it is very good at pretending. Advertisement. The most important thing is that you can't hold back other people's background. The patriarch of the head of the 4 nobles. The head of the nobility who has the highest relationship with the royal family and has the highest heaven hearing. If Byakuya Kuchiki is slaughtered, it will surely shake the entire Soul Society. And who is this man? Not only can he make Captain Aizen so fearful, but he can actually order Captain Aizen to act. Aizen Sosuke wanted to kill Hitsugaya Toshiro, Byakuya Kuchiki, which already made Ichimaru Jin Kasumi. But what made him even more horrified was that this man called Mr. Hokage could instruct Aizen Sosuke. Also, what kind of ability is this guy talking about? Why can Captain Aizen show a palpitation expression just by being silent for a month? Is this kind of silence ability so strong that Captain Aizen can't resist it? Is that possible to kill Captain Aizen? If so, then he needs to find a chance to think about it and see if he can use this ability to deal with Captain Aizen. I want all the information you have on Shinigamiization of Hollow of Shinigami. Naturally, Luo Hao didn't know that Ichimaru Jin was already thinking about how to get a mandatory silence to deal with Captain Aizen. At this time, his mind is on the 2 abilities of Hollow and Arankarization. This is what Orochimaru specifically told him to get before he set off to the Shinigami world. That's right, since Luo Hao became a member of the Wanjie Chat Skirt, the scale of the laboratory jointly created by him and Orochimaru has become larger and larger. The scope of research is not only the product of the Hokage system, he has studied the pirate system, elf system, Shinigami system and even the one-person system. Has he researched the power of Shinigami and Hollow to this point? It's only been so long, and the boundary between Shinigami and Hollow has been touched. How sensitive Aizen Sosuke is. Just from Luo Hao's few words, I can guess how far the other party is going in terms of Shu and Shinigami's power. 0. How? Advertisement. Luo Hao looked at the silent Aizen Sosuke. Aizen Sosuke pondered for a few seconds, then threw a notebook with a bit of pain. No way. This is the research result that he spent more than 100 years to accumulate. As long as you have mastered the knowledge and skills in the notebook, you can have a great chance to master the Shinigamiization and Hollow of Shinigami even without Hogyoku. It's just that the failure rate is a bit high. Click. Immediately after the deal was completed, Aizen Sosuke released Bakudo bound to Aceeds and others. Aizen. But as soon as Bakudo scattered, a huge icicle had rushed towards Aizen Sosuke like a god's gun. General Aceeds, please calm down. Facing the icicles of Aceedus, Aizen Sosuke showed his demeanor. He didn't even move, just relying on the powerful Reiatsu to forcefully crush the oncoming icicle. Just when he was about to say the newly prepared pretend line in a posture of forcing the king, Aceeds did not attack again, but just stood quietly aside. Not coming. Seeing this, Aizen Sosuke felt like he was punching the air. He's all set with his lines, ready to act in front of Aceeds. Why don't you fight? Isn't it said that Aceedus is the most belligerent? Want to pretend? I will not give you this chance. When I have enough strength, the third one will be you. Aceeds couldn't help sneering inwardly when he saw Aizen Sosuke's extremely uncomfortable pretend. Advertisement. Chapter 205 Whitebeard. I wish you happiness, Aizen. Advertisement. Fighting. The current Shi must not be able to defeat Aizen Sosuke. Aceeds knows this very well. After all, the opponent has obtained the power system of several worlds, and the ghost knows how terrifying the strength is. Just by watching the opponent play some tricks on Zaraki Kenpachi and make Whitebeard, who is third in the skirt, almost overturn, Aceeds can roughly imagine the strength of Aizen. Just because you can't beat it doesn't mean you can't deal with Aizen. She was already familiar with Aizen Sosuke's aggressive personality, and after one blow, she decisively let go. Let Aizen Sosuke, who has prepared a pretend line, have no chance to show it. Good job. Zhang Chulin and Cheomeng on the other side were also full of anger. Now seeing that Aizen Sosuke is acting like he can't pretend, they applaud Aceeds' actions in their hearts. Compared to beating up Aizen Sosuke, they all felt that it would be more ruthless to make Aizen feel as if he can't pretend. Luo Hao, besides the Heaven and Earth Curse Seal and 3 Sage Mode experience cards, what else do you have in your Hokage studio? This time, Aceedus obviously learned the tricks. Not only did she walk up to Luo Hao, she also took the initiative to put her arms around Luo Hao's shoulders, like a little bird clinging to others. If Aizen Sosuke used Yokoden like before this time, it would definitely affect Luo Hao. This woman has something. Seeing this scene, Aizen Sosuke also felt troubled in his heart. It seems that now he can't do anything horizontally. Of course there is. Since we bring the goods, we can't just have these few pieces. Luo Hao heard that. Just when he was about to take out the new product, the chat box of Wanjie chat dress popped up in front of him. Open black lens bracket at Administrator Luo Hao. Skirt friend Whitebeard sent you a pop-up window. Close black lens bracket. Advertisement. Whitebeard. Boy Luo, save me. Whitebeard. Don't bring the goods, Laozi is a little bit overwhelmed. Whitebeard. Don't keep silent, and don't act like Laozi never looked for you. What do you have? Laozi wants it. As long as it can help Laozi solve the current crisis, Laozi is willing to pay double the price. Facing Whitebeard who hindered his business, Luo Ku naturally blocked him without hesitation. But the ginger is still old and spicy. Although Whitebeard has regained his youth, after all, he has not lived in vain for so many years. After witnessing the tragic situation where Aizen Sosuke was forcibly silenced, Whitebeard also understood Luo Hao's temper. Before Luo Hao blocked him, he sent a message first. He wants everything, as long as it solves his situation. So arrogant. Double the price, it seems this old man can't afford it anymore. Luo Hao glanced at the message from Whitebeard before turning his head to look at the battlefield. I just saw Whitebeard being rubbed on the ground by Zaraki Kenpachi with one hand. Luo Hao. Old man, your situation is not good. Whitebeard. Nonsense, Laozi was almost hammered to death by this monster, how wonderful is it? Whitebeard. If Laozi is good, do you still need to pay double the price to find you? Luo Hao. Old man, I advise you not to be arrogant. Whitebeard. 3 times the price, let Laozi settle him. Apparently, Whitebeard already knew that Luo Hao was going to take this opportunity to beat him up as a good brother. He was beaten by Zaraki Kenpachi so fast that he breathed in more and vented less, he could only reluctantly give it. Luo Hao, what's the matter? Advertisement. Seeing Luo Hao's silence and delay in bringing out new products, Aceedus couldn't help urging. It's okay, just wait. Luo Hao put his hand into his trouser pocket while talking. A miniature scroll that was only the size of a finger in his pocket disappeared suddenly. At the same time, Whitebeard, who was being rubbed on the ground, immediately found a miniature scroll in his palm. Luo Hao. Aim at yourself and launch. Luo Hao. Aren't you grabbing it now? Do you want it? If you don't want it, I'll take it back. Go away, Laozi. 883. He failed to get this blood, and even pretended to be forced, but he was beaten up, and Luo Hao gave him a slap in the face. Whitebeard. Good stuff. Whitebeard, who was being beaten, turned off his skirt chat, and looked at Zaraki Kenpachi, who was about to punch him, and became angry immediately. I saw Whitebeard holding the scroll of scientific ninjutsu, advanced sage mode experience card aimed at himself, and then brazenly activated. Luo Hao. It's true that there are only 3 720 cards for the low-level sage mode experience card. After all, How can I carry too many such failed products with me? Whitebeard. Boy Luo, what kind of trick is this? Luo Hao. Science Ninjutsu Scroll 1. Advanced Sage Mode Experience Card. Whitebeard. How does this thing work? Luo Hao. Old man, remember to pay later. 3 devil fruits. Whitebeard. Happiness to you, Aizen. Whitebeard. Why don't you grab it? The old man, who was extremely upset, finally couldn't help but exploded. Whitebeard. Didn't you say that there are only 3 Sage Mode Experience cards? And what about this advanced level? Whitebeard. Forget it, give me 3 devil fruit Laozi. Advertisement. Chapter 206. The Seraiti leader is dispatched. Advertisement. Bang. There was a loud bang, centered on Whitebeard, and a violent storm of chakra slammed Zaraki Kenpachi, who was sitting on him with a left uppercut and an uppercut high, flying. Immediately afterwards, under the majestic momentum, Whitebeard, whose nose was bruised and face swollen from the beating, slowly stood up from the ground. It's too much. Laozi originally saw that you were a mentally handicapped person, and planned to give you 3 points, so he didn't care about you. I didn't expect you to shave off Laozi's beard because you are mentally handicapped. Laozi can't stand what you've done. Whitebeard did not hesitate to push the fact that he was not strong enough and was rubbed on the ground by Zaraki Kenpachi, all on his courtesy to the mentally handicapped. Father, he actually has a whole card. Zhang Chulin looked at it suddenly, his face was full of surprise. Daddy is about to rise up. Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes lit up when he saw his father so fierce. Just now I saw my father turned on the spell seal mode and was beaten on the ground by Zaraki Kenpachi. He really thought that he would say goodbye to this father he just met today. Sage mode. Aizen Sosuke looked around, his pupils constricted suddenly. You can't go wrong with that feeling. It's that kind of evil and cold spell seal mode that is far incomparable to it. Only the real Sage mode has this majestic and peaceful atmosphere. Whitebeard actually mastered Sage mode. Acetus looked at Whitebeard in surprise. As far as she knows, the difficulty of practicing Sage mode is extremely high. Looking at the ninja world, there are not many people who can practice successfully. Advertisement. Among the few people who have successfully practiced Sage mode, either Sage mode is not perfect, or they cannot enter Sage mode instantly. But what about Whitebeard? He has absolutely no chance to gather natural energy while being beaten, but still has Sage mode turned on. The only explanation is that Whitebeard did his magic. Not only have you practiced the perfect Sage mode, but you can also enter Sage mode instantly. Didn't you have a good time just now? Now it's lousy. Whitebeard glared at Zaraki Kenpachi with a grin on his face, then clapped his hands together. Sage art would style true several thousand hands. Knowing that he is using an advanced Sage mode experience card, Whitebeard, who has limited time, doesn't do too many beeps, and just opens up. In an instant, a giant Senju Buddha that was several times taller than the tallest building in the Soul Society had risen from the ground, entrenched in the Seraiti in a towering posture. The appearance of the giant Senju Buddha immediately made all the Shinigami captains rushing over startled and widened their eyes. Without any hesitation, all the captains resolutely opened Shunpo. Even if they just looked at the Senju Buddha from a distance, they all felt a kind of inexplicable anxiety and fear. This feeling made them think with their toes and know that if this giant Senju Buddha moves, it will definitely cause great damage to Seraiti. It came so fast. After Whitebeard turned on Sage mode, his perception immediately skyrocketed. He could clearly perceive every move of the captain. It can't be delayed any longer. Just a captain level Zaraki Kenpachi is so difficult, almost costing Laozi his life. Who knows if the other captains were also quietly changed by Aizen Sosuke. Quote. Advertisement. Thinking of this, a ruthless look flashed in Whitebeard's eyes. Turning Buddha on the top. Thousands of white fists suddenly bombarded from the back of the Senju giant Buddha. Zaraki Kenpachi, a ghost-like existence, has no ability to resist the Senju giant Buddha. After smashing thousands of punches, he was pressed to the ground by more fists, beating wildly. Bang. This is not his own world, and Whitebeard has no qualms about doing it. Thousands of wood-style arms beat wildly, and all the buildings and Setsuna rooms with a radius of several kilometers were razed to the ground. Damn it. The movement of the giant Senju Buddha not only shocked and angered the team captains, but even the leader of the Gote 13th Division who had not been dispatched in the team building, Yamamoto Motoinagi Shigekuni, was also furious. I saw him grab Zanpakuto beside him with one hand, and then he didn't make any movement, and he had disappeared into the team building. Obviously, the movement of the Senju giant Buddha summoned by Whitebeard caused damage to Seraiti. Even he, the leader of the 13th Division of the Guti, could not ignore it, and even took a photo of it. Whitebeard seems to be playing too big. Cheomung frowned slightly. He himself is a super god beast of the Super De Nuo Jiao ability system, and his mental power is extremely powerful. In addition, he has mastered the fairy beast mode, but in terms of perception, even the normal Aizen Sosuke is not as good as him. The sudden increase in the movement speed of the person in the 13th Division of the Gote already frightened him, and what made him even more horrified was that within the range of his perception, a Shinigami released a like moving the sun, they came towards them with an extremely violent attitude. What's wrong? Acetus looked at Mewtwo. In less than 2 minutes, the 11 commanders of the Gote 13th Division will surround us. In less than 3 minutes, the leader of the Guti 13th Division will arrive. Cheomung said one word at a time. Advertisement. Chapter 207. I bring the goods, I never look at how powerful the other party is. Advertisement. Even old man Yamamoto out. When Zhang Chulin heard this, she immediately wanted Whitebeard to run away with her. But when he saw the way Whitebeard was playing, he put the idea to rest. He knew that Whitebeard had been beaten badly just now. He failed to get the first blood, and was forced to pretend not to be good. Instead, he was pushed to the ground and beaten. All face and face are lost. Now it's hard to turn around, and if Zaraki Kenpachi is not beaten to death, even if he presses the retreat button, he probably won't be able to call back a Whitebeard who opened up. Things are getting more and more interesting. What are you going to do as an administrator? Should we retreat, or directly confront the 13th squad of Gote? After Aizen Sosuke noticed that Yamamoto Genryusai was also alarmed, not only did he not panic, but a little playful look appeared on his face. It seems that it was his plan to alarm the Gote 13th Division and be surrounded by them. Boss Luo, something is wrong. Hong Xing. No, the 13th squad of the court is a bit aggressive, why don't we withdraw 373 first, and you will bring the goods later. Zhang Chulin first glanced at Aizen Sosuke secretly, and then asked. When I live broadcast live, I never look at how powerful the other party is, nor how many people there are. Luo Hao said lightly. He even dared to force the Whitebeard pirates and the Marines to fight in a heated battle like some at war, and then watched him bring the goods. Now coming to the world of Shinigami, he will naturally not change his style. In a word, even if Uranus Laozi is here, don't even think about unplugging his network cable to prevent him from live streaming. Boss Luo, please continue your live broadcast. And I bought your stuff. Advertisement. Top photos that shed a new light on our past. Europress. Hearing this, Zhang Chulin immediately moved behind Luo Hao. He who has watched some at war knows very well that as long as he buys goods, Luo Hao will never allow anyone to hurt him. Compared with the gang fights in the 13th division of the court, he felt that it would be better to be slaughtered by Boss Luo. Tough. It really fits your style. Lord Hokage. Aizen Sosuke, who listened to the conversation between Luo Hao and Zhang Chulin, raised a playful look. Captain Aizen, they are coming. Won't you leave? Ichimaru Jin reminded in a low voice. Silver, did you forget? They've all seen Kyoka Suigetsu. As long as I don't want to show up, even if I stand in front of them, they will only see me as heir. Quote. Aizen Sosuke said calmly. He is so arrogant with Kyoka Suigetsu in his hand. After all, this is his chassis. After so many years of operation, even if the entire Gote 13th Division is dispatched, it still can't make him, the Shinigami King, change his face in the slightest. But, Ichimaru Jin glanced at Luo Hao cautiously. Relax, Silver, you just need to stand aside with me and quietly watch me dance with Hokage-sama. Aizen Sosuke's words made Ichimaru Jin's pupils shrink. Advertisement. He actually wanted to, but it didn't match his plan. Captain Aizen, what exactly do you want DADC to do? Ichimaru Jin felt a surge of horror in his heart, but on the surface he smiled lightly and nodded. Just as he was thinking about Aizen Sosuke's intentions, besides Zaraki Kenpachi, him, and Aizen Sosuke, the 9 Gote 13th Division commanders headed by Yamamoto Motoinagi Shigekuni had already arrived one after another, and get in shape, stand in formation. What a Shinigami scene. Normally, if you look up and don't see it, look down to see it, you can't do nothing. Let his mouth escape again and again, he still continued to punch without moving. Sui Feng, the leader of the 2nd Division, walked out of the crowd first, and said coldly to Luo Hao and the others with a cold and arrogant face. Asides glanced at Yamamoto Genryusai and other captains, and a sudden understanding rose in his heart. Every captain and vice-captain is a master of pretend with high attainments. We are the Seraiti Gote 13th Division. Zhang Chulin looked at the captains and vice-captains who were posing in midair, and couldn't help but express sincere admiration. Having been with such a group of pretenders day and night for 100 years, it's no wonder that you still don't have the posture to force the king. What made Sui Feng's face more and more cold was that Whitebeard, who was playing vigorously, completely ignored her words. Although she is very upset with Zaraki Kenpachi, she is in the same club after all. Sui Feng looked down and found that Zaraki Kenpachi was being hit by a burly, imposing Whitebeard man riding him, punching him left and right. You, stop it. It's no wonder the world of Shinigami can produce a king like Aizen Sosuke. Before Luo Hao could open his mouth, the sounds of punches to the flesh came from below. If Aizen Sosuke hadn't been born in Seraiti, who was born in such a superior pretend environment, it is estimated that he would not have been able to cultivate such a world-famous forceful style in just 100 years. Bang bang bang. You are waiting to be surrounded. I advise Wa to be captured without a fight, and explain your identities. Perhaps, while you await the judgment of the Seraiti, you may still live. Advertisement. Chapter 208. The second team is in charge. Sui Feng joins. Advertisement. WW2. Did you hear me? Don't blame me for being rude if you don't stop. How could Sui Feng swallow this breath with the other team's leaders watching from the sidelines, being so ignored by Whitebeard? After all, who came out to hang out, which one is not for pretend, which one is not for face, and which one is not for breath? With so many talkers, in Seraiti it is impossible to look up see you down. If she loses this face today, how can she hold her head up when she sees other fans in Seraiti in the future? Bang bang bang. Facing her cold drink, what responded to her was Whitebeard's more arrogant and proud fist blows. I tell you to stop. Sui Feng gave another cold drink. It was just that what made her almost lose her temper was that Whitebeard was playing in high spirits, just as Zhang Chulan said, even if she pressed the retreat button, she would not be able to call back Whitebeard at this time. Especially Whitebeard paid a high price for this time. It takes several devil fruits to open sage mode and true several thousand hands once. Now that the blood is gone, the force has not been pretended, and instead, he has been beaten, losing all face and face. If Whitebeard doesn't have a good fight, then this fight is not only white hits, but also a loss. Big. I am the captain of the second squad, Sui Feng. Now you will be sanctioned in the name of travel disaster, illegal infiltration into Seraiti, and malicious murder of the captain of the 13th Division of Gote. You die for me. Sui Feng finally got angry when she saw Whitebeard repeatedly ignoring her orders and persuasion. After a quick confession of Whitebeard's crimes, she decided to try him herself. Kill the enemy. Suzumaki. Advertisement. There was no movement, the person had flickered behind Whitebeard like a ghost, and at the same time, the Zanpakuto in her hand was already Shikai, and it was removed towards the back of Whitebeard's head. I didn't see Laozi cutting people, let Laozi get out of the way. It's just that Suzumbaki's Shunpo goes fast and comes back even faster. Whitebeard, who was playing well, was upset when he saw someone getting in his way. Still in sage mode, without thinking, he gathered armament haki into his fist and punched backhand. There was a loud noise in the atmosphere first, followed by a violent punch hitting the air, cooperating with armament haki, a shock wave visible to the naked eye was abruptly hit. What? Sui Feng's expression changed drastically. Although she and Zaraki Kenpachi are the captains of Gote 13th Division, but the strength is far from Zaraki Kenpachi. After all, Zaraki Kenpachi is a well-known freak. Before Shikai, the round pressure is stronger than the General Shinigami Captain Bankai. Now Zaraki Kenpachi has mastered Bankai, and Reiatsu is more than 10 times the usual captain level. It just so happens that Sui Feng is this usual captain level Shinigami. Facing Senju Whitebeard, who can even hold Zaraki Kenpachi behind Bankai on the ground, she can only be blown away with a single punch, and there is no other way to go. No wonder you can beat Captain Zaraki on the ground after Bankai. Hieraku Shunsui on the side was also surprised by Whitebeard's strength when he saw this scene. There is no Zanpakuto, but Sui Feng is sent flying with one punch in human body and with bare hands. Looking at this level of strength, there are not many talkers in the 13th Division of the court who can do it. Court death. Sanctioning Whitebeard was unsuccessful, but it was a big embarrassment, which made Sui Feng who got up from the ground even more angry. 0 asterisk. Advertisement. Instant coax. Without any hesitation. Sui Feng immediately showed his biggest hole card besides Bankai. Originally, she wanted to save it as a surprise for Shihuan, but now after being punched by Zaraki Kenpachi, she changed her mind. Decided to let this nasty stinky man know in advance that she, the second team, is a master. I told you not to bother Laozi. Whitebeard saw Sui Feng obstructing him again and again. Realizing that the time for Sage Mode is running out, and he is about to withdraw the Sage Mode that he bought in exchange for Krypton Gold, he is also impatient. I saw that he was originally towering above Seraiti, and Senju Buddha, who had already knocked out all his fists, suddenly moved. It dragged the body with thousands of wood-style arms behind it, and then reached out to grab Sui Feng in the wooden golem posture. This kind of slow wood can only be defeated by a fool like Zaraki Kenpachi. Sui Feng curled his lips in disdain. She admits that she is inferior to Zaraki Kenpachi, compared to Reiatsu, and inferior to melee combat. But before Reiatsu gaps to a certain extent, Kido, Shunpo, Kendo, white hits and various special abilities, as well as Zanpakuto's abilities are extremely important in battle. Reiatsu is definitely important. These abilities are the key instead. Of course, the premise is that Reiatsu's gap has not reached the point of qualitative change. If the gap is already unimaginably large, then the heaven-defying Zanpakuto ability is useless. In Sui Feng's view, the Senju Buddha in front of him is indeed terrifying. But the battle just now was obviously severely damaged, coupled with such a slow movement, it happened to be restrained by her. Because she relied on her speed to become the leader of the second team. Advertisement. Chapter 209 Seeds, do you want to dance too? Advertisement. Just get out of the way, and you'll kill the damn Whitebeard man. Sui Feng cast Shunpo while thinking. Like a dexterous Suzumaki, she easily avoided Senju Buddha's attack. Just when she was about to step on Shunpo and rush towards Whitebeard, Senju Buddha's other hand suddenly swung in a sweeping gesture. Fear. Armament haki wrapped around Senju Buddha's arm, and a semi-arc-shaped shock wave of arm color was stirred up in the air during the daily use. Sui Feng, who had no time to break out of the range of the shock wave, was immediately affected, his whole body was blown out, and then hit the ground again. Team leader, Marekio, the vice-captain of the second squad, saw it, and hurriedly ran over to float Sui Feng. But before he could stretch out his hand, Sui Feng had already punched him in the stomach, beating him deformed on the spot. Do I need your help? Sui Feng had a cold face, and stood up again. I really have no eyesight at all. Didn't you see there are other fans watching? Need not. Seeing his team leader's look of strangers not to enter, Yin Maeda Marekio squeezed out 2 words with difficulty. Go away if you know you don't need it. After Sui Feng slapped Omaeda Marekio away, he raised Zanpakuto with a grim face and pointed at Whitebeard who ignored him again. You managed to P***s me off. Bankai Jakuho Reikoben. After being rubbed on the ground by Zaraki Kenpachi's Bankai, Whitebeard became extremely sensitive to the word Bankai. As soon as Sui Feng yelled the word Bankai, he jumped up from Zaraki Kenpachi without saying a word, and dodged to Luo Hao's side. No way. It's not that he is cowardly. In fact, the Bankai of the Shinigami captains of the Soul Society brought him extremely deep thoughts. The most important thing is that the Sage Mode time for his Krypton Gold is back. Advertisement. Without Sage Mode, I don't know if Sui Feng Bankai will pervert like Zaraki Kenpachi in the future. He made a quick decision and withdrew. HMPH. Do you want to stop now? Late. It's just that Whitebeard hesitated, but Sui Feng showed no signs of giving up. Seeing Whitebeard running away from Luo Hao, she even thought in her heart. It's just right, if we all come together, we can wipe out these Soul Society sinners at once. After making a decision, she brazenly raised the missile-like Jakuho Reikoben and pointed at Luo Hao and others. Die to me. Murderous intent flashed in Sui Feng's eyes, and then the Jakuho Reikoben in his hand shot out viciously. Captain Aizen, this one-hit kill seems to be no joke. If you get hit, you will die straight away. Shall we temporarily hide from the limelight? The whole body was covered in black robes, making it impossible to see, and Ichimaru Jin of Reiatsu spoke the most serious words in the most relaxed tone. Aizen Sosuke, who was standing beside him, was indifferent and continued to stand where he was. Whether he wants to make a move, or to see that man make a move. Seeing this, Ichimaru Jin turned his gaze to the man who had the ability to force silence, which made Aizen Sosuke extremely afraid, Luo Hao. Facing a Bankai as Captain Shinigami, this is no joke. Especially Bankai with special abilities like Sui Feng. Although it is only one blow, it is a one-hit kill force. Unless Reiatsu has a big difference in skills, if he is hit head-on, the ordinary captain will definitely die. One-hit kill is coming. Seeing this scene, Zhang Chulin turned pale. As someone who has seen Shinigami, he is well aware of the horror of Jakuho Reikoben. That is the weapon that even the second Espada can take away in one wave. 0. Now that he was in a position, it was too late to escape. Exploding with the power of Jakuho Reikoben is no different from a missile. Advertisement. Unless he can escape the missile's explosion circle in an instant. But the problem is that after the explosion of Jakuho Reikoben, the spread speed far exceeds that of the missile. Thinking of this, he didn't hesitate at all, and just like Whitebeard, he stalked behind Luo Hao. However, Whitebeard is more ruthless. Whitebeard is standing behind Luo Hao, and he is standing behind Whitebeard, so it is more secure. Gibberish, why are you still in a daze? Come here if you don't want to die. Don't say Big Brother doesn't love you. One-hit kill. Acedes, do you want to dance too? This captain's Bankai is called Jakuho Reikoben. At the critical moment, Zhang Chulin still showed his brotherly love. Are you going to do it? Hearing the words, he was so startled that he couldn't help but look up at 5.2 Luo Hao who was standing in front of him. There are so many Shinigami captains and vice captains, there is always my opponent. It looks useless, but it's actually a one-hit kill. Anyway, the heads of the 13th division of the Gote team are all here. Fang Buddha regards the Jakuho Reikoben in front of him as heir. Under the gazing gaze, Acedes walked to Luo Hao's side. Now that Whitebeard is screwed, it's time to play with her. The opponent just now was robbed by Whitebeard. Let me give you a popular science now. He saw Yijigu not far away who was still there in a daze, so he quickly reached out and grabbed him. Luo Hao glanced at Acedes who was eager to try his hand at it. Acedes said slowly, of course, if you want to stretch your muscles, I don't mind being a spectator. Advertisement. Chapter 210 You are so forceful, let me pretend. Advertisement. But it's no wonder Acedes is so calm. Unlike Whitebeard, who was terrified by Bankai, she, who had been standing by and watching the battle, was keenly aware that Sui Feng's Reiatsu was far less terrifying than Zaraki Kenpachi. It can be said that Sui Feng is incomparable with Zaraki Kenpachi after Bankai, except for Bankai's ability and speed. Captain Shinigami at this level, she said that she can still pretend to be a wave. Speaking of which, I have never seen you do it with my own eyes. It's always been watching you play against people through live broadcasts. This time, it should be the first time. Acedes looked at Luo Hao with great interest. It's not just her, except for the Whitebeard and Cheomung that Luo Hao has seen with his own eyes, the eyes of all skirt friends are focused on Luo Hao. They have seen the strength of the administrator, but they have never seen it with their own eyes, nor have they experienced it at close range. After all, what the live broadcast can bring to them is the visual impact, and this impact cannot be compared with being on the battlefield after all. The impact of other senses, and even the impact of perception, they cannot experience in the live broadcast. Forget it. After being here for so long, it's time to move your muscles. It just so happens that there are too many Captain Shinigami here. Either one is a bit of a stretch for you to go. If you can't pretend, let me pretend. Under the gaze of so many eyes, Luo moved excitedly. As he spoke, he stepped forward to meet Sui Feng's Jakuho Reikoben. When Aizen Sosuke and others heard this, their eyes lit up. As expected of Hokage-sama, a man who gathers the best of pretend from all walks of life is the same. Just a simple sentence, you guys can't pretend to be forceful, I will pretend to be lonely as a master. Especially Aizen Sosuke, he cheered in his heart. Advertisement. Act recklessly. Sui Feng sneered when he saw Luo Hao dare to pretend in front of him, and met her be Thunder Whip alone. After waking you up, it's the first time I use you. I think you have been lonely for a long time. Since this is the Soul Society, it can be regarded as your home stadium, then let you and me play a wave with all my heart. Luo Hao reached out and shook the air. A long sword with a simple shape, which is very different from the general Shinigami Zanpakuto shape, immediately fell into his heart. Generally, before Zanpakuto is liberated, the basic blade will basically be bent. But the Zanpakuto in Luo Hao's hand can be seen from the scabbard only, and it can be found that it is a long knife with a straight edge like the blade. Really, he has long mastered the most quintessential power of the Shinigami, Zanpakuto. It's just such a short time, I don't know if he has practiced Reiji. If you do it well, what is Bankai's ability? Aizen Sosuke saw this scene without any surprise on his face. Although Luo Hao's Shinigami training system is very short, in his opinion, a person like Luo Hao can still master the power of Shinigami even if no one teaches him. Zanpakuto. I don't know what department Luo's Zanpakuto is from. Kido type or direct attack type. Zhang Chulin stared curiously at Luo Hao's Zanpakuto. The best way to deal with Shinigami's Bankai is Zanpakuto. Using Shinigami's power against Shinigami's Bankai. Asita stared at the Zanpakuto in Luo Hao's hand with burning eyes. Mere humans have mastered Shinigami's Zanpakuto. How on earth did he do it? Advertisement. Not far away, the pupils of the Shinigami captains including Yamamoto Genryusai flickered slightly. They all found out. Luo Hao is not a spirit body, but a living human being. Human mastery of Zanpakuto is not unheard of. But the premise is that human beings must become spirit bodies. Like Kurosaki Ichigo, every time Shinigami power is used, the spirit body must leave the physical body. There has never been a Zanpakuto who directly controls Shinigami with human flesh and blood like Luo Hao. Did Aizen's death really have anything to do with them? Judging from the strength they showed just now, if everyone has such strength, then they do have the ability to kill Aizen. Just when did the human beings in this world become so powerful? What kind of power do these people come from? Hiraku Shunsui glanced at 210 Whitebeard and others, and finally settled on Luo Hao. Intuition and reason told him that the man in front of him was the brain of this group of men and women, and he should also be the most powerful in this group. Captain Sui Feng, be careful. The good old man Jashiro Yukitaki who also noticed this immediately reminded him. No matter who he is, there is only one dead end in front of my Jakuho Reikoben. However, Suzumaki, who was very confident in his abilities, directly filtered Jashiro Yukitaki's reminder. In her opinion, no matter who Luo Hao is or what purpose he has, it doesn't matter from the moment she casts Bankai and takes out Jakuho Reikoben. Because the group of men and women in front of them will soon be dead. Is it really that easy? The second leader of the 10th squad, besides Hitsugaya Toshiro, who is the best player, is also Matsumoto Rangaku, who is also the highest altitude, staring at Luo Hao. Maybe it's a woman's intuition. She always felt that the man in front of her was not so easy to deal with. Even if Sui Feng has brought out Bankai. Advertisement.